Pull up a chair and join us indeed. Hello, everybody. This is the Tim and Joe Show, and we're here with a very special guest today, Daniel from Bandit's Keep, who is muted. Daniel? hello. Oh, you're muted, dude. The little mute button in the bottom.
I think, Can
you unmute him?
I can't unmute guests because they chose to mute.
Oh, you want? All right. Bottom of the screen, Daniel. You got that little mute button there. We're off to a roaring start, boys.
It's not working for him.
No crap, really? No shit. That's weird. All right, you think he's?
I had to scroll.
To see the button.
Everything got bigger when we went live. So I guess when you're live, you just get big. Like it's so I got to scroll down.
You mentioned you had some StreamYard issues with a former guy. Maybe you're like a carrier of the StreamYard plague, and you're bringing it to our channel now.
StreamYard does not like it.
Where's my N95? Look out. So everybody, thanks for joining us. We have 12 people. That's a hell of a roaring start already. We don't usually get that at the outset. We get people joining when we're about to leave, usually, So
everybody watches this to see us go.
Yeah, pretty much. Are they done yet? Let's watch them out the door. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So we, Tim and I have a little, just minimal experience with Daniel. I came across this channel like a lot of you guys who were here. I noticed a lot of familiar names, a lot of unfamiliar names. So welcome everybody, and hit the subscribe button if you like the show. If you don't, then you don't have to. But if you do, what the hell, right? But Alea, so I saw Daniel's channel. I got into it a bit, and I'm like, this is good. I like this guy's vibe. He's cool. He's chill. He just says, no agenda, spits out the facts as he sees it, and he's a great advice. And I met him at ShireCon, a convention up in Connecticut here, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He mentioned, I play with these guys and this and that, and then have a show. And he says, "Oh, I subscribe to Tim Short's Patreon." And it's like, "Oh shit!" For like a million years. So you guys have known each other a long time there. Yeah. And then we all got the chance to meet the last time, so it was nice. It was nice. I've been hoping to do this for a while.
Well, in today's world, right? In today's world, like I don't get a lot of mail. Like I get mail, but it's like junk mail.
Yeah.
So the great thing about Tim's Patreon is that he sends stuff in the mail. Mm-hmm. I get a little letter, and I say, "Oh, what's this?" Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing. So it makes me happy every time I get one in the mail. Maybe someday I'll actually start to run all this like stack of adventures. Like,
oh god, I know. You probably got almost everything, Dan, because you were like, I think one of my
really.
Oh gosh, I think I started it back. Gosh.
Do you have any OG from the very beginning?
Who, me?
Yeah. Do you have like anybody who's subscribed to you, like Daniel or somebody else? I don't know if Daniel's been there since the very beginning.
Eric and Matt, but none of those, neither one of those guys. They find like Eric found a package of mine from like 2018 or something mail like that. He still hadn't opened yet, so that tells you how much he pays attention.
I think he rents a secret storage unit, and Rach doesn't know about it. So just for all the shit he gets, he has a Kickstarter, a PO box.
He buys more shit than he knows how to keep track of. I don't know how he does it. I don't. I mean, what little I buy, God, I don't know either.
That's a problem, right? I mean, the more stuff you get. I was just watching. So now I've found a new thing to waste my time with. BookTube, they call it. So it's like YouTube, but it's people that talk about books.
Yeah,
and they do these things, these like book hauls, and they go out and first of all they make me angry because they're all finding these like old, first edition prints for like $1. I'm like, where are you getting these things? But they'll have these like stack of books, and I think to myself, I've done that. I've gone out and bought 5 or 6 novels at once.
Oh yeah,
I've read none of them. Because the more stuff I get at once, the less likely I am to read it.
Exactly.
Like if something comes, like if I'm like just starting something and like a Kickstarter shows up in the mail, like that Kickstarter goes on the shelf, I never see it again.
It's hard.
It is.
I have a staging area for that shit. Like I have it like on a chair, right? That little hassock in my living room, Tim, you saw. That's my staging area. I'm going to read this, damn it. I'm going to read this, damn it. And then more builds up on top of it. Then I got to move the staging area to shelves, not having read that, and then I have to make room for the new shit that's coming in. So that's right. Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking about that today because I mean, we have the reverse problem today. It's like back when we were younger and everything. Not that there was a lot of selection to choose from because it was pretty minimal back then, but we had more time than money, and now it seems like now we have more access to more things, but we just don't have the time to go through them. But because we have the money, we still buy the shit because we still have that 8-year-old goblin inside of us that wants to eat all of it.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, there's a good question there, Mark. Mark, that's the ultimate. You know, it's right up there with the nature of the universe.
When you're getting your buddy Matt Jackson on the show, I don't know when his girlfriend will let us. I'm right there. I didn't even go back. I just went right for the big shot.
He hasn't even announced it to anybody yet except the three of us. And now the world knows he's got a girlfriend and won't let him play D&D.
He works second shift?
Yeah, he works second shift. That's the real problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's trying to get off it this summer.
He's getting a first shift job though.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
This
so
summer,
hopefully soon, Mark. I'm hoping like he'll his time will open up and we can get Matt on the show every once in a while. Get him. We have to get him playing again. He hasn't played in probably a couple of years now.
I know.
I mean, not that he was that good to begin with, and we always carried him, but we just
Yeah.
You know, it was good to have him around. You always need that. You know,
the red shirt, really. The guy is the red shirt of the group. I mean, it sums it up, you know. But hey, we always start everybody with what's something cool this week that we did, did whatever, RPG or anything related.
Yeah.
So I have something cool here. Speaking of shit we got in Kickstarters that we won't read. This thing here, I actually read way too many times. This is, I believe, Rob Conley's super.
Let's hope it's not part of your porn.
I don't hope it's not. Yeah, I know that's the problem.
Slowly open it up.
I gotta make sure. You know, I don't know what the hell. You know, a lot of things are shaped like this that I get in the mail sometimes with that special test. All right. So yeah, let me take the receipts out. Here it is. All right, this is Rob Conley's Kickstarter, How to Make a Fantasy Sandbox. Ooh, turn it that way.
Now, are those the hardback or the paper?
These are the ones I.
Oh, one of each.
One of each, yeah.
Oh,
and so, that's all I asked for was just give me a copy when I edited the thing, you know, because I'm no pro, you know, but it came out really good, actually. Good quality binding, good books, digest size, lace flattish.
The only gripe I got about Lightning Source is when you get those kind of bigger paged hardbacks or even the paperbacks, they're tight. They're hard. You know, you're basically like put an elbow on them to keep them open as you.
I know.
Reading them. And Rob's, he doesn't. I don't know. I still bitch about his margins sometimes being.
Yeah, you don't like them too tight.
Well, you see how much wording's falling into the gutter in the middle.
Yeah. Over here, you mean?
Look at
that. He's busting on the new Kickstarter. This is, I get it.
I know. Well, I got it today too. I do it, so I was looking through it today, and I'm like, damn it, Rob. You know,
it's a little tight. So you got to bend it wide, basically. Yeah.
So you gotta eat your Wheaties before you eat it.
And he broke out the Isle of Paillade. So it's really nice. So it's like I got one set. So this is good. I got a set for.
Yeah, it looks good though. Yeah. I mean, he does. Rob's stuff is.
It's excellent.
We need more spiral bound books. Jason, it's Jason Connerly. Oh, hey, excellent, buddy. Jason. Good to have you, man. I agree. Yeah, he's what's an RPG variety nerd podcast.
Okay. I knew I knew the names was somewhere.
Yeah. He's I mean, if you've got a podcast, he's probably called on it.
Yeah.
he calls on everybody's. Yeah.
Right.
I've been loving the mapper class concept in Daniel's solo play. He uses it to find treasure maps in the hex roll. Oh, I do like that. I must have missed that one.
That's cool.
For the adventuring groups.
Yeah. Guys, we're gonna as we're going over the cool thing of the week, start asking questions out there. Okay. Yeah. Any comments, any questions you have, start filling the chat as we're diving into our cool thing of the week. And then when we come back, we'll have a lot of conversation to talk about. All right. Throw it out there.
Oh, Vance has run 2 of my scenarios in the last couple of weeks. I'm sorry to hear that, Vance.
Nice. Which ones? I want to know.
Did they live?
Yeah, which ones did you really do, Vance?
Let's get favorites out because I already know what my favorite is.
Oh, you got your favorite, Sarah.
I got my favorite. I have the Flayed King. That was the very first one I ever read.
Oh gosh, the
Flayed King. So great. I actually talked about it multiple. I talk about it all the time.
Oh, do you?
It's like my favorite. I love the idea of it. Well, I don't want to give away too much, but this is it's so great. I actually started a whole campaign on it, and It's such a great little adventure. Really great concept. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out.
And, well, and then what makes it, I think that makes it cool is Jim Magnuson's like cover art for that thing was just knocked it out of the park for me. I just like,
nice.
I was like, oh my God, Jim, that's and unfortunately, I don't think I don't even have a copy of it anymore. I have it on PDF somewhere, but
I have a couple copies. If you need one, I'll hook you up.
I think I printed. So let's see. What did it say? Bullet Kitcher. I don't go on cam. Oh, okay. Is somebody asking you to go on cam?
Me, yeah. I don't go on cam though.
It isn't working. I hear a manly voice, but no cam.
Manly voice.
Manly voice.
Well, I like to think of it as a sexy manly voice. There you go. Okay,
I just
whatever
threw
works.
up a little bit.
Whatever works. Whatever works. You see me? I do squats. I got a firm ass, dude.
I would not know.
Feel it at your leisure.
Yeah, no.
Is that an invitation to the ShireCon for
anybody at ShireCon is welcome to feel my ass for $1 for charity. All right.
I was gonna say he's gonna raise money for Tom over there at the ShireCon.
Charity being Joe's drinking fund. So What's your cool shit of the week, Tim? Oh, Daniel, you got something.
I was gonna say about the spiral bound.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because that, I made, so several years back, I was running Hyperborea, or back then it was Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerer Hyperborea. So, it's a giant book. Yeah. So I went to Lulu and I just made spiral bound sections of various areas, like the combat and the magic to have at the table. And they're great, but they're terrible to carry around, right? It's spiral bound is great when we need to flip it open, but how do you put it in your bag, right?
You can't stack it well.
It's
it never stacks.
Storage on the shelf too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I wanted to get a copy of Shadowdark with spiral
Crow statues. Oh, right. Yep. There you go. That's a good one, actually.
Between the two barrows.
It says two barrows. Yeah, that one is
Atticus Stumps. Oh yeah, Atticus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was just recently. That was with what's his face? Perplexing Ruins did all the artwork for that one. I really like his stuff. So what did you bring so very cool this week here, Daniel?
Oh, so I was out, was it yesterday or the day before? And I was going to Staples of all places, weirdly because I had watched everything with these stories, so get ready. I had watched Wandering DMs, and they had done a thing about what OD&D tells you to use, like what supplies you need. And they were talking about how they were kind of joking about how you have to have a 3-ring binder, and I didn't have one. So I was like, I'm going to go to Staples and get a 3-ring binder. And I went there and I didn't find any I liked. But then right next to the Staples, like 4 doors down, I hadn't been in this part of town before, there was a comic book shop. So I said, well, I can't not go into a comic book shop. And I'm in there, and there's only 5 minutes. She's 5 minutes before closing. I'm running around, and what do I find? But I don't know if you can see this. Dungeons and Dragons, Saturday morning
and Adventures.
So it's based on the
cartoon.
The cartoon. Yeah, the characters are from the cartoon, but it's modernized, I guess. I've only read 2 of them so far, so I got 4. There's 4 of them in this series, but they've modernized it. It's in the Forgotten Realms, and they've got at one point there's a Spelljammer ship. I'll give it away this plot. Spelljammer ship. So it's not like a repeat of the cartoons, which is what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
It's pretty neat. It's not bad. Every once in a while I like to pick up a comic book. I find that they're very there's a Spelljammer ship right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat, and there's my favorite character right there, Sheila.
What was she again?
She's a thief.
Oh, thief.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Who was the thief acrobat? Was the chick who had that extended?
That Diana. Oh yeah,
yes.
Diana.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 best characters. And the thing, but anyways, so I picked those up, and I thought that was pretty cool. I read the first 2. They're not fantastic, but they're not bad. So a little nostalgia, a little modern.
I was gonna say,
I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. I bought the DVD over COVID because I have extra money. I'm not going to bars, and I ended up like, you know what? It was one of those 2 a.m. Amazon
you
purchases.
Got a lot of stuff during
there's a lot of shit.
That's a lot of money.
Houses of Crusade sustained themselves over COVID, I think, partly. But there was a lot going on over COVID there. I was picking up it's a lot of that shit was I woke up the next day to find that I'd ordered the Saturday Night Fever LP from eBay.
Oh my God.
It's like one of those, nights. And I think that's where the D&D DVD came in. It was one of those kind of nights. You know what I mean?
The question is, do you have a record player?
Oh yeah. I got a lot, man. Yeah, I got a lot of the record player. I have about 400 records, I think I'd estimate. Yeah.
Oh,
and I bought a record player. I bought a vintage, bought a used one because I was thinking all my shit I listened to was like late 60s, early 70s classic rock. The Stones, Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, all that stuff. So I Creedence even, and I just wanted to hear it the same way they heard it in 1977 or whatever. So I went out and bought everything from that was in that era. Cost me like a fucking month's rent essentially, but you know what? I wanted the whole vibe.
Right.
Yeah,
that's very cool. I used to have a lot of vinyl, and one of my rituals was on Sunday mornings. I had like a little tiny record player. I would set it up and play them, but then I got rid of a ton of it. I just kept like a few things that I like to play, like like Nebraska, some stuff that's good acoustic and stuff.
Yeah. CSNY, that's great, man. Listening to that stuff.
I knew this one guy. He said like finding that you got it ordered and everything. I knew this one guy. It wasn't too far from like Joe, he was no stranger to a little bit of extra herb now and then,
herbal supplements,
yeah, and drinking and that. And he was a big Diablo player, whatever version was out at that. And he was getting hammered playing. And he was getting pissed off about the game because he wasn't doing so well. So he woke up. I think it was, or maybe it was 2 days later. He gets this package from FedEx Express. He ordered this giant sword online because he didn't like his sword in Diablo. So he
Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
And it was like some freaking claymore that he bought.
That's fantastic.
That cost him like, I don't remember how many hundreds and hundreds of dollars and that. He's like, it's still on the wall.
Oh, you can't you can't return that. That's an omen. That means it must be held. I don't know
what the return policy is for claymores, when you're
I mean, who hasn't bought a sword at one point or another in their life? I mean, I
got two on the wall behind me right now. Tag sale swords, man.
It was so funny when he told me that because I was like, yeah, that's exactly what he would do. Yeah. So I guess my cool thing of the week is I hit 20 years with my wife.
Nice.
Yeah,
and because he's a veteran of 20 years, he knows well enough to say the cool thing of the week was his 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
So bravo, Tim.
I got here easily because of that. Yes, not my first time. No. No, very good.
Yep.
That's what I always my one thing where one of my how when you go into this is going to sound a horrible analogy, but I'm going to do it anyway. When you go in to buy a house, you have your must-haves.
Yeah.
Well, my must-have with a wife is to understand that I was a gamer.
Yeah. Nice.
Someone who understood, and because that was a big part of who I am. And if they didn't really get it or didn't like it, then it wasn't going to work. But the other cool thing of the week, as Daniel was funny, he brought it up. Staples. I haven't been there to Staples, and God knows, I got myself a new office chair.
Nice.
Yeah, I got the other one back when I was real sick back in the day, and it was trying to solve a problem that I didn't have at the time, like back issues and stuff. And it just was never real. It wasn't horrible, but I don't know. I like the taller backs and that. So I finally splurged 4 years later, 3 years later, and got it. Oh, got 5K5 in the house. Got Flints.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, appreciate it.
19 people.
Back in the day, I used to, this is before COVID, I used to actually sit on this old kitchen chair when I worked on my computer as a means to not be on the computer too long because it was incredibly uncomfortable. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to be on the computer all day when I'm home. So I had this terribly uncomfortable chair. And then about a year into the lockdown, I was like, all right, seems like I'm going to be working from home from now on. So
time to upgrade.
I just splurged. I got a nice chair. And boy, is it nice.
That reminds me of a story. I remember Fritz Leiber. He, the Pfafferling Ray Mauser, at the end of his life, he was making enough money from Gygax, and all that to sustain him. He wasn't struggling anymore, but he always had a hard life, drinking and everything. And he was a San Francisco guy at the end. And, he was basically, somebody came to visit him near the end there, and he was living in it was kind of a 1-room apartment in a building. I guess he had a wife or a girlfriend at the time, but it was small. And I think the setup for him to type was he set up his typewriter like next to the sink or something with a, it was like put a board on the sink and put it there, and then a chair, like a hard chair in front of it. And he's banging out these freaking stories. So, we're all sitting here grumbling about, well, you don't have this, we don't have that. We can't prepare because I have the right pen or whatever the hell it might be. This motherfucker cranked out the best, and he coined the phrase swords and sorcery, right? Cranked out the best shit ever that D&D is, in part based quite a bit on. And what a goddamn situation like that. So stop bitching. Anyway.
I know. I mean, think about Stephen King when he was in a trailer. He was using a kid's desk on his knees.
Yeah.
Where the washer and dryer room was, pounding out Carrie.
Yeah.
Putting out and working on his second one and everything. And it wasn't until he got the paper book rights money for it, he made a shit ton of it.
Yeah, that's when he shit his pants. Yeah,
basically, he did. But yeah, I mean,
the coke made him shit his
people
pants.
just do it. It's like even as Maya Angelou, I'm getting all literary here, but she did it on an ironing board. Like she was working with kids or whatever, and then would write in between. So it's sort of like plants. Life and imagination will find a way. It doesn't matter where it grows.
Absolutely. So Daniel, speaking of getting back to getting a wife who understood he played D&D forever. How long have you been playing D&D, man? How long has this been your hobby?
Oh, I got back into playing in 2016, 2016, something like that. So
5 years get you in, or
feels like a long time. So I was, it's a weird story. I played when I was a kid. And like most people. And
can we ask like what rough age you are and what year you started playing?
Well,
you know what I mean?
A lot of you want my blood type. No, I started playing in 1981 with the Mulvey set. I was 9. So you can do the math.
All right. Okay. All right.
So I played through maybe mostly through halfway through high school or something, maybe a little bit. Near the end, it was like here and there buying a book, and then I never thought about it again. Really, I wasn't. And I know this because I went out and bought. I remember thinking, oh, D&D, I used to like that when I was younger. And I went and bought a bunch of second edition stuff, but like nobody who I played with as a kid was still around. Yeah. So I put it on a shelf, and I actually found it like 3 or 4 years ago. There was like a box full of second edition stuff.
Oh,
never
really?
played it.
It's pretty cool.
But no, I was working at a place and doing some video production, and one of the guys was younger guys, like in his 20s. He was like, "Oh, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, they still make that game, It was like, I had never even. I was like, sure. I used to play when I was a kid, and it one thing led to another, and then I've been playing since. So 5th edition for probably the first couple of years, year and a half or so, until I rediscovered some of the older stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, because most of your videos I've been watching, they're focused with the original. Not Beckme, but basic expert stuff. It seems like.
Yeah, Mulvey was what taught me how to play D&D, and then I had AD&D first edition, and I had. I remember very specifically that I had all of us had the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, all my friends, and then each one of us, like I had Monster Manual 2, I think. One of my friends had the Fiendful, and one had Monster Manual. Like none of us had all the books, so we were always like trading them back and forth to to see what we could run, because we were kids, like you said earlier, we didn't have the money to have that stuff, so.
Right.
But yeah, I played a lot in high school. But I'll say this because people always say, well, I played D&D all the time and I tried other games. We actually played Top Secret more than anything else. That was probably my favorite game when I was a kid. I played the heck out of that game. Love that game.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we played that one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So would you, it's a weird thing to say, but the OSR scene, right, as it sort of developed, you weren't part of that then. How did you sort of find this? Would you consider yourself part of the OSR scene? I'm assuming because you go to ShireCon, you go to GaryCon, you know what I mean? But how did you find this? What exposed you to it? Like, what was your gateway drug?
For me, any scene that'll take me.
All right.
If I say any scene that'll take me, I don't want to be part of it. Maybe is the way to say it.
Right.
And that's the famous thing. So I was playing 5th edition, and I started watching YouTube videos, and I remember seeing people effectively mocking and making fun of the older games and saying that they were unplayable, and that how did anybody even do this? Like none of it made sense. And some of these people were later, I'm not going to throw any names, but later became big YouTubers. But at the time, whatever. And I thought to myself, was it really that bad? like was I a kid? I just didn't get it. So I bought the stuff kind of an exploration to see, like, I wanted to read it to see how bad it really was. Yeah. And then as I saw, when I read it, especially Mulvey stuff, I was like, this is a fantastic game. Like, what are you talking about? It's 100% playable. There's nothing confusing about this at all. And I mean, granted, first edition is a little bit all over the place, but if you take the time to play it, it's not unplayable. It's, you know, it's definitely playable. So it just got me playing it again. I was like, it just got me interested, and then I started playing it, and I liked it. So, but it was funny. If it wasn't for people like making fun of it, I would have never went back, because I was very happy playing.
That's awesome.
Which I think is a fine addition. I mean, I don't
sweet irony right there, you know?
Yeah.
What's your system of choice now for like D&D-ish fantasy games? What are you playing? What do you like?
So I'm playing OD&D right now. So I have my own version of it that I'm working on.
I was going to say, how's your version going, Daniel?
Yeah. It's good. It's very, very good. I think, you know, I love it. I need to like flesh it up to actually get it out so people can play it. Cause like all the things I don't want to write, like the explaining what elves are, you know?
Yeah.
Like I just have a line that's like, you could be an elf, you know? And if you're going to make it a game, you got to do all that. But what I found is that it actually, by adding chainmail, and I'll start off by saying, some people ask me specifically chainmail questions. I am not doing it right by any means. Like I'm looking at it and reinterpreting it to work for me. What it does is it creates a game where you become very heroic very fast, which I like. Like I like powerful characters. So you could, but you're still kind of a glass cannon. Like you can, any role could kill you, but at the same time, you don't have like tons of hit points, and it's very grounded in that way. So it's working really well. We've been playtesting a campaign for over 2 years now, and they're at eighth-ish level, most people, and they are very powerful. And it's very fun to watch them just like, you know, be able to cut down things, but then also like run from like a dragon, because a dragon can kill them in one hit. You know, so it's like it's very interesting to see that, like when you're at a high level in a lot of systems, when you can fight a dragon, it's like, well, I could fight the dragon. It can hit me 4 or 5 times before I die. I have to hit it 10 times to kill it. So it's numbers. This is not like that. I mean, it's like the dragon will just kill them outright. Yeah. And they might have a chance, you know. So I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really working for me. You know, so yeah, I like it a lot.
Very cool. I'm glad, because you have it, because it's an interesting way you kind of do it, because it's and this is the part that gets me confused. You've got like hero, superhero, like, and the horse. Is there a horseman, or because you don't really have levels? They're just sort of like names, right? Or are they? I get that confused.
Yeah, there's levels. So the way so I'll briefly try to explain. So there's basically, what I found fascinating about chainmail is that there's basically 3 kinds of combat. There's your generic like troop, what I call troop combat, which is like a more abstract combat. Then you've got man-to-man combat, which is like your weapon versus armor, which you see in AD&D, but this is much cleaner because it's a simpler system. And then you have what's called fantastic combat. And in chainmail, like for instance, and I say this in my game, like a regular person can't kill a dragon. 100 regular people could never kill a dragon. You just can't do it. And that's like part of the conceit of the game. You need to be this heroic figure to do it. So you have these different levels. Like once you're a hero, you can do certain things you couldn't do when you were a regular person. And it really changes the profile of the game, because like, why do we need heroes? Is because regular people can't do it. Your village can't take the troll out. They just simply cannot kill a troll, whereas your single hero theoretically could, right? And that creates the mythology. And so I like that. And I mean, I'm pulling parts from chainmail. I'm still using OD&D. Part of the hardest part was making the spells work, really, because there's no hit points. Well, I won't say there's no hit points. I mostly don't use hit points. So for instance, if you're fighting, let's say you're a hero and you're fighting 10 orcs, they've got to hit you 4 times simultaneously in one round to kill you. Otherwise, you're not hurt at all. So you're either alive or you're dead. And what that means is that you can cut through 10 orcs if you're a hero, because there's a pretty good chance they're not going to kill you. But, you know, if they roll really well, I remember the first time I did a test, I put 4 orcs against a hero, and they needed to get 4 6s to kill them on 46. And I rolled 46 and killed the hero with the trick. And I was like, it's rare, but it can happen. And that's the thing, right? So you can be Conan, but at the same time, you can also go down really easily if you happen to have a terrible roll against you. And it kind of incorporates into the system the stuff that I like. Like even playing 5th edition, like I talk about this a lot, when they get to high levels, like I wouldn't do a lot of the combats. I'd be like, you're 13th level. You're not going to fight these things. You're going to kill them. Why are we wasting an hour and a half to fight them? Narrate to me how you kill them. So this game does that in the system, because like if there's a certain point where things just can't hurt you, then you can just say, well, I defeat them. It's fine. Done. And it's the kind of thing that's now, it codifies it, I guess.
10th level guys and 3 goblins. I mean, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, the 3 goblins need to be there because just because an environmental area, just because the badasses are walking through doesn't mean you changes and skews what is in that environmental area. Basically, it has to be consistent all the time, so you kind of know that you're going to go for a walk in the woods. Doesn't mean just because you're 12th level you're going to see a dragon. It has to make sense in some way. That's a sort of a
right
pet peeve I have, and things just don't make any sense.
100%. The scaling, right? And the thing is, you don't have to remove it because it will just naturally work out that way. That's the way the way I do it. So like when you're all of a sudden there's not ogres where there used to be orcs, and there's not giants where there used to be ogres. They're still there. It's just that as a hero, they're going to run from you. You have a reputation. You're very powerful. So somebody asked. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat now. I'm sorry to occupy the whole thing.
No. You're here
That's why you're here, man.
So the way I got into this, somebody asked how I got into it. Oh God, I'm not gonna remember the name. Gray Elf. I'm trying to think of their name. Jason Vey, I think is his name. They came up with a system. So my friend Tony, who actually also turned me on to Tim Short's Patreon back in the day, he was like, I know you really like Conan. You're reading Conan. This person did a Conan hack for original Dungeons and Dragons. And I said, oh, that's cool. So I went and I looked at it, and they used OD&D, and they used chainmail. And that actually, I already had owned chainmail, and I already owned OD&D, but I had looked at both of them and went, I was like, I have BS. I don't need this. But it really fascinated me, the idea of the different combats, the troop combat, the man-to-man combat, which is the more intense than the fantasy combat. It really fascinated me, but I didn't love exactly how they did it. So of course, like all of us, right? We see something and we're like, I like this, but and I started digging into it.
8 pages of house rules later for one minor thing.
Right.
And really what ended up happening was I sat down actually online because it was with my friend, and I was like, do you mind playtesting with me for something like half an hour? We're just going to do a couple of combats. And we ended up playing for like 4 hours just doing combats. And we were like, this is super fun, being able to fight like these mass combats really fast and really abstractly. So it really got me to dig deeper into it. And then I realized as you read OD&D, like how much different, and when I say OD&D, I mean just the first 3 books, like how much different that core set is than every other D&D. Like so much changed when they added Greyhawk and then all these other things. So it really is a different game, and it's just fascinating. I'm not going to say it's better or worse, and I often say that I'm not trying to recreate OD&D. What I'm doing is I'm looking at it and I'm going, here's a situation where there was a game, a really loose game, right? And Gygax says in OD&D, it's like make up your own rules, all that stuff. And there's chainmail, and then at some point, I guess in 1975, they said, you know what? Let's do alternate combat as the main combat system. Let's do various, hit dice. Let's do weapons doing different damage. Let's do this. Let's do that. And they made that change, and D&D went this way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they had not done that, they went, you know what? Let's dig deeper into chainmail. They would have went this way. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm like alternate history. D&D is kind of where I'm at. I'm like, what would happen if they didn't do Greyhawk and they went the other way? There's no thieves in my game. I handle things completely differently, and it's fun to kind of experiment and play and see what's there.
So you actually used OD&D. You didn't use like a white box thing that brought it all together with some sensible format. You actually got
no. The sensible format is the problem. No, because everybody, and you get this. Like if you look at like Matt Finch, right? He does a great job in Swords of Wizardry, telling you all the stuff that he's interpreting, right? Going, this is what it says. I'm just doing my thing. You start actually reading OD&D, like actually reading it and going, what is the deal here? Like, what does this mean to me? Right? Because people are going to interpret things differently. Like, what does this mean? You really start to, like, for instance, there was a conversation I had with, can't remember. The podcast is Red Caps. I'm trying to think what his name is. And he had read, he was looking at OD&D, and the way it talks about stats, and it says something like, you can adjust your intelligence, but only for experience points in your prime requisite or something like that, the way it's phrased. And what he was interpreting from this was, if you're a fighter and you have like a 12 strength, but you have like a 16 intelligence, you don't have to lower your intelligence to raise your strength. You just automatically count your strength for experience point purposes as higher. And that blew my mind, because I was like, now not every fighter is this beefy 18 strength guy. You can have a 12 strength fighter with a 16 intelligence and still level really fast. Because of course in OD&D, that's all the prerequisites do is they help you level. And you can have a smart fighter. You can make that nimble fighter. You can make the Gray Mouser, right? Whereas everybody else is making Conan all the time because that's the best way to level. So the idea that you can do this with this simple interpretation of how this phrase is in OD&D just really blew my mind. And like stuff like that really, and I'll also say that we had a back and forth because I did not agree with him. And he actually found a forum post by Gygax saying, no, that's what I originally meant. And then they changed it. So that's apparently, and of course I'll now we have to find it to prove, but
that's awesome.
But yeah, it seems to me that's what they were saying, and so that's fascinating to me that like a little bit of an interpretation of a rule can change completely how people play the game. And that is really where I'm at, and I'm just like that's what fascinates me about OD&D. It's so wide open. It's
a pretty fun system, I think, in the sense that it allows the DM to do whatever the hell they want. Of course, I've never played it because the closest I've ever gotten was BX. Basically, I've never actually tried it, but I think I would have to do the same deep dive you did in order to get it, to grapple with it. You know what I mean? Just to figure it out, because it's the one set I don't have an OG copy of. I have a reprint somebody had on Lulu a million years ago. Tavis Allison turned me on to, hey, download it here. It's at cost and blah, blah, blah. It was like a, side room kind of a deal. Downloaded the thing and I read through it. I'm like, the fuck? How the hell did they do this?
I know.
How did they make what I play and even what I played in 84? How did they get it 9 years later from this to that? What kind of evolution took place?
And what's funny about it is what you have to do, and this also came from that Jason Vey Conan thing. He has another supplement that he says, if you're going to try to play OD&D, you have to forget everything you know about RPGs. You have to really look at every line and go, hold on, am I putting in what I think is the right way to say it because I read that in AD&D, or am I actually reading what's here? And taking it and if you do that, and it's hard to do, I have to go back and read it over and over again. And like sometimes I'll interpret things differently when I see it. You start to understand, like, okay, so for instance, hold person. So hold person says something like works just like charm, except can do this many people. So how do you interpret that? So knowing what we know, because most people that use whole person now think of it like you're paralyzed, right? Like you're held.
Right.
But it's not that, right? It's like charm. So it's in their head. You're just telling them don't move, and they can't move because it's like charm person. So it's a really fascinating. And again,
it's like a subliminal kind of a thing,
right? So now, how does that look versus, let's say, what the other would look like, right? So and you can actually kind of think about that and go, yeah, this is different. I mean, you don't have to think of it that way. You can just have them be paralyzed. It doesn't actually matter, right? You can do it however you want. But
this is
the idea that you can read it differently and take it differently is just fascinating. Yeah.
And I wonder how much of that comes down to your ability to do it. It was, I played in 1983 or whatever, and then I stopped and I didn't play until 2016. You missed all of the bullshit
a lot
in between, 40 years of shit, right? You missed splat books, you missed systems, you missed additions, you missed all kinds of crap, interpretations of rules, argument, minutia. You missed what started with something simple and basic that you had an understanding of as a child, really, and then you probably mostly forgot except the vibe. You jump to 5e, and then you jump back to that 5e, the ultimate, evolutionary point of D&D. Then you jump back to straight up OD&D, like the Cro-Magnon man of fucking D&D, right? And you're trying to figure out what's Cro-Magnon man mean? How does he think? What happens with him? What's in his fucking head without any baggage, right?
Gosh,
you have nothing.
Epic. I'll just assume that you are saying something awesome. I know I lost you. You were saying something, and then you disappeared for like 10 seconds.
Seriously? Oh shit!
Yeah,
I was just
Joe talks faster than the speed of sound.
Sorry, man. Yeah, basically, sorry. I didn't know you froze up. I would debate the bottom line of it is you. I think it might be to your advantage that you skipped 40 years of shit. You went from old school that you probably mostly forgot to new school, then back to old school without any interpretations clouding your vision of how that spell should work.
Right. I think that does help a lot. It really does. I think that missing all the middle was good for me. Even when I looked at it, I was like, I don't think I really need this. But I only thought that after playing 5th and going back to the OSR and then looking at 2nd again. Like I don't need, I don't need that to tell me how to play D&D because this is how I like to play, right? I mean, obviously, if I'm trying to play somebody else's table and it's their rules, that's whatever. But I think that's true. I think the more you go through and the more stuff that's piled on top of you, the harder it is for you to get away from it. you know, and that's it. I mean, just almost anything, right, has interpretations. You know, it's like you could look at even the most really codified rules, and there's always going to be interpretations. But when you jump to OD&D, where it's so open ended, it's like, and that's why I don't recommend people start with OD&D.
No,
like if I was telling somebody to go to the OSR, I still say Moldvay Basic is the best. I think it's really well explained. I think that it's clean. And it's very, very functional and very, very workable.
Moldvay over Old School Essentials?
Oh, hell yeah.
Really? Interesting.
Oh, why? You got the channel for that?
Oh, why? No, I don't. I'm curious. I don't care one way or the other.
This will be interesting because I've been watching Daniel. There's this lingering thing with OSC.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear it.
So the thing about OSC is this. I like OSC. Don't get me wrong. I have 3 versions of OSC on my shelf, so I'm not a hater. But OSC is going back to what we talked about before. OSC is he went through and he made sure he was doing everything right, but he simplified everything and he cut things and he made them short sentences. And I can tell you that for a while when OSC first launched, like probably the first year or so, I used to go onto the OSC forum and answer questions by doing screenshots of BX because those extra 4 or 5 sentences explain it. BX teaches you how to play the game. OSC does not. I would posit. I think OSC is a great reference. I think it's worth having. I don't think they're going to print it again. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not starting, but I know you went to Dolman would now. I'm not sure what's going on with the OGL, but so if you don't have one, I would get OC. Right. But I think if you were starting from scratch, BX is the best way to go. Those examples of play, the way everything's laid out, I think is just perfect for learning the game.
Better than Beckme, huh? You thought it was better than Beckme?
Yeah, well, I have to say that because I started with
okay,
BX.
all right.
But also, Menser will say, because, well, at least he said to me when I met him, that not to use the Thief from Beckme because he nerfed the hell out of it to make it go 36 levels.
It it was terrible.
He's like, use the BX Thief.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, it's close. You could do Beckme as well, I suppose. But that has that little, no, I don't think so. I'm sorry, the Beckme people are going to hate me because as much as that choose your own adventure thing is fun.
Yeah.
So here, I'll give an example of that. So Palace of the Silver Princess, right? Not the orange one, but the green one, which is by Bolvay, who is like, who's and I think Cook possibly, and those are some of my favorite adventure writers. They did what they did in Beckme. The first part of Palace of the Silver Princess is a choose your own adventure. Like when you're DMing it, you're just like choose A, B, or C. Yeah. And that's fine the first time you run it when you're learning to play the game. But when I go back to it, do I want that? Or do I have to go back and parse it and try to figure out how I run it with my own skill? I think Beckme has the same problem. It's like, fine, I do the choose your own adventure, but then the rules are mixed in, right? I mean, and again, I'm speaking a little bit without knowing because I never had Beckme and I've only read the first book a little bit, but I feel like I'd rather just have a rule set. Like I don't want that choose your own adventure style. So for me, I would say no, but people might like that. No.
I enjoyed Palace. I enjoyed Silver Princess because it was like the first adventure I ran, right? Because it came with the thing.
Oh yeah, it's so
good.
But
I hate it now because it sucked. It was just a bad adventure.
The orange one is so much better. Have you played the orange one?
No, just the
oh my god! Yeah. Oh, the orange one is so good.
All right, okay. I know there was some mockery in the orange one, wasn't there? Or some TSR people. Was that the one with all the pictures making fun of them and everything? Tim's gonna go.
Yeah. There's that.
Tim's going for the Rob Reach around here. Boys
I don't know if I have that one on and ready or not.
I don't think I even own that one. That's one of those unicorns. You see it in live, and you grab it and run, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I don't have it here.
That's a con thing.
Now. Yeah, I like because I there for a while I was going out and buying all the monochrome covers of everything that was available.
Oh,
yeah. When they weren't $50 a piece or something like that. I was back when they thought, oh, nobody's gonna read this, and I think I was getting them for like $5-7. I mean, almost for the price you had to buy them back then.
Right. I wish I had jumped early on. I grabbed a bunch of modules, but I didn't get it enough clearly because I talked to some people. I'm like, oh man, you got 3 copies of OD&D for $50. It's like,
right. Yeah.
I bought my Beat to Crap set. Actually, at ShireCon, I did it as a bit thing for like $300, and it's like falling apart. But it's like I had to have it.
I know. If I had $300, I would have been bidding against you, dude. It's one of those things. I want to get it someday.
Yeah. Someday. And I was glad actually to get a beat up copy because I don't care. Like, I mean, I care obviously it was $300, but like, it's got pen marks in it and everything else.
I love that.
Oh, we love that. Yeah.
So, but Silver Princess has a lot of like weird. Like the orange version is different. It's like. First of all, it's a little bit more open. No, we're going to talk about Silver Princess. It's a little bit more open-ended because the plot is different. Okay, it's the same map roughly.
Yeah.
Same basic idea. But in the orange version, you've heard about this place that was destroyed years and years ago because of the thing, and you're going there to loot it, right? So that's old school D&D, right?
Yeah.
When they redid it and revamped it and put it out in whenever they did, like 83, 84.
Save the princess.
They changed it. Now it's right. Now it's like the princess has sent out a special thing for lawful people.
Yeah.
You can, and it's funny because it changes the idea of it, right? And it doesn't. It took away the whole like hex crawl that comes before it. Yeah. So the orange version is much more like I'd put it more attuned to like B1, where it's like open ended. You can fill in the blanks, but there are some missing spots and some weirdness that didn't seem perfect. But I read it actually, and in OD&D, and it was super fun. So if you can find the orange one, WotC had put it out as a PDF for free a while back, but I couldn't find it later, so I don't know if they stopped it or what.
Yeah, I'm sure there's might be a PDF that might have flittered its way into my hard drive at some point or another. I'll have to look.
It happens a lot. It's like a migration.
It's a weird thing. It's like a virus or something. You know, I don't ask for it; it just appears. I don't know what the hell's going on. You know. God. So, dude. So what is your ultimate goal with your? Go ahead, Tim.
I was just reading that thing climbing out. Said Palace seemed good when I was 12, but not so good today.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was one of those. I think adventures that was very good for when it came out, but as far as aging, I don't know. I think there's still a lot in there. And again, the original, like we're talking the monochrome kind of the cover and stuff like that. If you go back to the original one, I think there's a lot there you can use for someone who you want to introduce to the game. You know, Daniel, it was very interesting. I think I commented on your video from the other day, Daniel, about using Tomb of Horrors as an introductory adventure module, and I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, there's my people, because that was my introductory module to gaming, period. I mean, we didn't have anything else but Tomb of Horrors, so we just played the hell out of that thing. But it was just kind of funny seeing that. Yeah.
You know what's funny about it? I hate to do spoilers. We do spoilers.
No, don't worry.
What's funny about it is there's certain things in Tomb of Horrors that I hear are so terrible, and it's clearly that people didn't read the module.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to mention the one thing everybody knows about, which is the green devil face, right? So inside the green devil face's mouth, as a spoiler, is a sphere of annihilation. Okay. So you walk up to this thing. Right. So you hear these stories about, well, my DM had us crawl in one at a time, dying. But if you actually read a sphere of annihilation in AD&D, as soon as you touch it, there's a loud noise and it sucks you in and disintegrates you. Yeah. Whatever you touch it with, you would immediately know. And that's exactly what happened to me when I played Tomb of Horrors. I used a 10-foot pole and I had a good DM. I touched it and the pole ripped out of my hands. Blood, you like made me take 1 point of damage or something.
Yeah.
And it was gone. And I said, "Oh, hell no!" Nobody went near that thing. So whatever DM is like having you crawl in one at a time like idiots, that's a bad DM. That's not a bad module. So I think that's the problem, right? Sometimes if you have a bad experience with something because the DM didn't interpret it in a way that maybe it was meant to be interpreted, you get this idea that like it's a terrible thing. So I always find that funny that people blame the thing and not themselves because they were 16 and wanted to kill all their friends.
And that's it, right? But I think not only was the fun of killing your friends, I think it actually turned a lot of people. It gave them a justification for being a dickhead DM. Well, I already played an adventure that was basically a dickhead DM adventure. Right now, I can be that's the way to play D&D. Because if you were in a vacuum like I was, I knew like 2 guys who played in high school, and I've only played in a couple games other than my own with me and my brother and a couple friends. So I didn't go to cons. I didn't have anybody who played. So my experience was primarily modules and the few other people I had played with a few times at lunch or some shit like that, right? And so I'm going by the books I get, and I'm thinking this is how to play. Yes, Forest Oracle is a great adventure. You know what I mean? It's like this is the way you think because that's all you see, right?
That's all you got, Go ahead, Daniel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's super relevant because I always say, because I hear people talking about, back in the day, everybody played Chaotic Evil and we all stole from each other. Not my friends. Like we might have been too nice to each other, maybe, but we read all kinds of like adventures where they were much more story based, and we would watch a cool TV show and like make an adventure about it. And it's like in that cool TV show, everybody wasn't dying, right? So you still, characters still died, obviously.
Yeah.
But we were. we were much more into that idea of it being like a story. So that was the other thing. Again, going back to getting me back into it. One of the things I heard so many people say was, "Oh, and nobody named their characters; they just died all the time. People just didn't care." It's like we totally cared.
Oh,
we would draw pictures of our characters, and we'd have whole stories about them. And I mean, we cared about our characters a lot, And I thought, well, that's misrepresentation of what's going on here. So I want to, give my opinion.
Yeah, you guys are a little earlier than me. Tim was late 70s, early 80s.
I'm on coffee.
I came in 70, like the end of 70. I can't remember if it was a 79 or 78. It was, going back that far, it gets blurry, but it was, it was back then.
I was 84, and back then it was, the Benser, because Beckme got me in, and they had the thing, draw your character. I'm like, oh, I'm going to name him. I'm going to draw him.
Because wasn't there like there was
a box,
photo box, wasn't there?
Yes, exactly, little photo box. Yeah. We all named them Gandalf and Aragorn and all that, right? So this is
well, I never did that.
Oh, I did. Yeah, me and my brother did. We didn't know anybody else.
You still rip off people's names today, Joe. You don't even come up with your own.
Larry, Daryl, and Daryl will make an appearance in every adventure I ever run.
No, I know, because a lot of those misconceptions. I think the reason why they have such a misconception is because we had brutal games. And I think people bitch about Tomb of Horrors for right and for wrong is because it's we got Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes, thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Wow.
What was it now? Howard Hughes chumped it right on my head.
You don't see $20 too often, do you?
No.
I don't.
I was reading and say the stream is like the USA 84 hockey team of all.
It's funny. Howard Hughes is the only person that's ever given me a super chat. He gave me once. I think he gave me $20 on the first live stream, and he gives us 20 now. So thank you, buddy.
No, I didn't Climb the Mountain give you one too? One time?
I think he might have. Yes, Climb the Mountain is my one and only subscriber. So thank you.
Oh,
that's like a special payment every month subscribers. So thank you, Climbing.
Gotcha.
Yes, we are old. Sorry. Yeah.
But I think a lot of them think because of our games were so brutal and everything like that they think we didn't care about our characters. It's right. It's like, no, we because this is like I remember playing back in the day. I had my folder of characters. I had like, I don't know, let's just say a couple dozen characters, and then we just travel from house to house, and then if someone was going to game, then I would just pick out a character that was appropriate for that game at that time and just kind of go with it. And like Daniel was saying, there was a few, you know which guys were going to be the dickheads and was going to play like, they're going to try to steal from you and or just difficult to play with or whatever. So you tried to avoid them if you could. But back in those days, the pool to play with was very small and shallow.
That's true.
And it would get
slightly autistic too.
And then like what the rule was, we just had all this weird agreement that if your character died in someone's game, you had to give that GM that character out of your folder.
Yeah, I hate that rule.
Oh,
you didn't have to. You didn't have to and everything, but that was one of our things. But if it was like one of your favorite characters, like the one time my friend Dwayne's character died in he just rolled like me actually for like the whole session and just he couldn't do anything, and then he just got like slammed by some monster trap or everything, and his character died. But it was one of his favorite characters. I didn't take it, to be able to play because that's But we had some that they would keep. The DMs would keep the folder that said graveyard on it. They would put in the characters that they killed in there, and those are the ones you knew to stay away from. So you didn't want to get in one of their games.
There's something embarrassing. I started a bunch of D&D groups at a library back in the town I used to live in, and I got a bunch of kids into it. It was fun. The librarian was on board. We had like 15 people, 3 different tables going at some point. It was fun. I kind of trained them on the 5e and how to do it and blah blah blah. And then one kid I was playing his campaign, I was kind of proud of him. He was a good kid, and he's smart and a good DM. My guy died or whatever, and give me your sheet. I'm like, all right, well, cool, here you go, man, whatever you want to do it. But I go home that night, and I'm like, motherfucker, took my fucking character sheet. I've always had every character I've ever had ever somewhere. I might lose them on my own in a move or something, but I have every character sheet I've ever owned, right? You know what I mean?
Oh,
They're somewhere in a
really?
box
Wow.
somewhere. Yeah. So you'll find them
Sweet.
unless I lost them somewhere, me and my brother along the years. But I'm like, motherfucker. So the next week, I wasn't running the game that week. I was, I left them on their own. I just show up once in a while. I said, hey, I go back in the game and say, kid, give my fucking character sheet back. It's like, I don't want my character sheet, man. Vesper must live in my folder. So he gave it back
Put
to
him
me.
in a headlock until you
tear it up.
I'm going to give you a fucking nook, motherfucker.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, it's funny you say, because like somebody was saying they wrote their characters up on paper. That's what we did, and like I would always have multiple copies of my character. So it's like because I would do one, and then I'd be like, oh, I want to do a different style character sheet. So I'd have like all these different. So I suppose if somebody took my character, I would just have another one. Erase the name. No, it was so rare that like if you had like a favorite character, right? Like people didn't. I don't know. I'm not going to say that we didn't kill each other's characters because people did die in adventures, but most of the stuff that we did was homebrew, and it usually ended up being that we could figure out a way out of it. We were probably very, very gentle. And once we got going, when we first learned, we were just killing each other left and right.
Brutal,
just rolling the dice,
But the rules
and that was the fun part about it too.
Yeah.
But then once you get into AD&D, and like we had some levels behind us and stuff, and then it's like, well, now it's like we have all these levels, so we're gonna make sure that we have gold in the bank to like resurrections and stuff like that. So we're making sure we're not gonna die all the time.
Trapper keepers, remember those?
Never lost a character.
Gosh, I don't know how. I don't have hardly. I mean, gosh, a lot of my old like adventures and paper stuff that I used to have. Either it's gone or Rob kept copies of my shit for some reason. He would like, you're gonna get rid of all that stuff. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, give it to me. It still has
it. A little history, man. A little museum there,
Yeah, I don't have anything either.
I can imagine like you, because you had that huge gap, Daniel, man. So because I had a gap. Let's see, because I played until pretty much the end of high school. And then everybody left, like for military or college, and I didn't do either one of those. I just kind of worked and traveled and did all this other shit. But the funny thing is I always kind of had my gaming books with me. And
never know. Keep your dice.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that I was still writing adventures. I was still even though I wasn't playing, I still liked the act of creating the adventures, and I was still doing it the old-fashioned way. I had like the manila folders. I would draw up a graph paper, staple the graph paper on one side, the map on the one side, and then like some whatever I needed on the other side, and then I would handwrite everything on notebook paper, staple that together, and then I put it in the middle, and then I would name it some stupid thing. And I had this gaming briefcase that I carried around that had dice. Graph paper, and
that's it. That's all you need, man. Keep your dice close and your enemies closer. Isn't that the motto? I mean, that's
that dice were the most valuable thing because back then it was so difficult to find that stuff. It was a little easier by the time I got there. I think I don't remember. It wasn't like it was a common commodity in stores, and they didn't have 10,000 dice makers. Making fish eye ball D20s and. They do now. I mean, if there's anything,
let who he has not bought a fish eyeball D20 cast the first stone. All right, so just saying, we've all been there.
Well, it's funny because which I left out of the story was that I stopped playing a little bit. This is probably like mid high school, and then at one point I was like looking for my books, and my mom had given them away. Like a cousin or something that was learning to play. And she's like, we haven't played this for a couple of years, and she just gave all my books to somebody. So I was like, okay, I guess I hadn't played it in 2 years. I'm not that interested. I was just looking for it. But then later in life, when they were moving out of, they had like a summer home and they were moving out of it, she brought me like this box of like toys or whatever that had been there. And there was some Smurfs and Matchbox cars. And in it was like a handful of dice, like not a full set. There was like a D8 and a D20. Nice. And this is like now even before I started playing again. And I was like, oh, those are dice for Dungeons and Dragons. So I had them, But that's all I had of anything that I had when I was a kid, because all that stuff was gone. Like they were all given to my cousins or whoever.
Right.
So I have like a handful of dice. That's it.
Now, where did you grow up? Was it sort of, did you go through the Satanic Panic thing with were you like rural or something like that, or did you grow up where you didn't have to deal with that kind of nonsense? Oop, I think you might have lost. You there, Daniel?
You keep phasing out.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry. You there? Yep. You hear us?
Yeah. No, I keep losing my Bluetooth. I don't know what's going on with Bluetooth.
Okay.
Is my computer reading? No. No. You know what's funny? You talk about Satanic Panic thing. You know, it's funny. I was probably in like 5th grade now. This is when I was playing D&D, and there was like a PTA meeting, and I'm like raised Catholic. Like my parents are religious, so and my mom went to it. She didn't say anything to me. And then when she came back, she told me what it was about, and it was exactly that. And that was the only time I ever. And she didn't say Satanic Panic or anything like that. And she got up there and she said, "I told them." I went up there. I said, "You're in 5th grade. You're reading at an 8th grade level. You go to the library all the time. You're like reading about history. You're like doing stuff." She's like, "It's like this is the best thing that's ever happened to this kid." She's like, "There's nothing evil about this game at all." And she stood up there, and they didn't end up banning it or ever. You know, so good on my mom. She stood up to that crap, and it was never a problem.
Yeah, you saved the school. Basically, your hobby, your habit saved the school. Good job. No, I never had to deal with that, but my friend Kurt, who got me involved in the game, and funny, I found an old Dragonlance module he gave me 1,000,000 years ago. I forgot he even owned it, has his name in there, but he had to deal with that, and his stepmother was uber religious, and saw the devil and everything, and so she made him basically throw everything out. But she was kind of cool. What she did was she paid him all the money, the face value of everything, right? And plus tax. He made her pay the tax. So he goes to me in school and says, "Hey, Joe," he gives me a big order form for the hobby shop. He says, "Have this all mailed to your house. Here's the cash. Have your mother have your mother write a check." Right. So like, Kurt, what? So he told me the whole story.
Black market stuff.
Yeah. So, hey, buddy, buy me some D&D books. It's like, so I bought all this shit. My mother wrote the check. She didn't blink an eye. She didn't quite thought it was odd, but whatever, So he got all the books, and he kept them in his locker at school forever, so she would never fucking take them. So they're always there.
That's so funny.
So Mike's asking you a question, Daniel. DCC or Shadowdark?
Oh boy. DCC. Do I have to elaborate? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess so.
I will say honestly, I've not played Shadowdark. I do have the PDF. I did buy it in the end. It seems like a pretty cool system. I just don't. For me, it's not different enough than what I'm already running. Would be my reason for that. Right. DCC is quite different. So, like, if I wanting to run something different, I would probably run DCC, which is a fantastic system, and I really like it. I've run it quite a bit. I just don't see any Shadowdark appealing to me for what it is. It feels like it's like Index Card RPG, which is another great game. There's nothing it does that I don't already get with something else. So, those two both fall into that same category.
That's completely understandable. Yeah, I've heard that from a few people and everything. Yeah, no, that's understandable.
The art's great, though.
Great art, but it just doesn't seem like a game that you could run a long campaign for. It seems like a beer and pretzels, convention game, or a few 3, 4, 10 episode.
Joe, campaign. That's because it doesn't have like 30 house rules for one spell.
I don't know, man.
Don't like it.
I don't know that it could. I don't know that it could.
When I run my next, because I'm going to run Shadowdark, the next one, you'll get to see what it looks like.
Right.
I mean, it's. I mean, just think of it. I mean, it's still, it's an engine, and it's going to go as far as you want to drive it. You can use it as you want. It's just there. It depends on whether you're going to go 150 miles an hour with it or 55, or depend on how hard you're going to, test it out. Like with mine, how I run games. Yeah. I think it'll fit in pretty well. The real interesting thing I want to see is how the XP use, and I think it'll work fine. I mean, I don't see it because if you think about it, I mean, you got to be what level, you got to be, it's based off of sessions, not different things. So I'm looking
interesting.
Kick the tires.
So it's like Into the Odd in that way.
Yeah.
Like Into the Odd is done based on adventures, which is very cool. Yeah. I think for me, and again, I'm totally speaking in ignorance here because I have the PDF, but I've only read through it. It's mostly a dungeon crawling game, right? I mean, there's not like a lot in there about the rest, right? Or am I wrong about that?
I mean, it's like most. I mean, because if you think about it, most I mean, DCC is about adventure crawling for the most part, and you know, most.
Well, DCC has like no rules in it.
So, well, that's true. Yeah,
like DCC is just, like the right. I mean, I only say DCC because I'm not saying it has superior rule set. I'm just saying that if you were making the argument that it wasn't for campaigns, right? I would say that it's focused more on dungeon crawling, and you think that that's not.
That's maybe what I meant there. Yeah, but I mean, it does have like carousing because it has like this. The big thing for Shadowdark is it has these carousing rules. This is another thing I'm kind of curious about because I don't know how much I'm going to be buying into those or not, but I want to kick the tires as is just to see how they work. You know, and that's where you get a lot of your experience points too, because you can get experience points for doing these carousing. So that's how they get you. That's your money sink. So you say how much money you're going to spend there, and then you roll on a random table, and like you might
if you got herpes basically, or if the king is after you, or you know,
right. But you get different experience. You can get different experience points, like bonuses, depending how much you spend and what you roll and different things. And
that's cool.
You know, and like I said, I want to try to run it as what do they call it? Raw.
Rules.
Yeah, run it raw. Rules is written because like any system, I want to run it as is before I start.
Yeah.
House ruling it.
Yeah,
that's a shot, Daniel. You don't realize that's really a shot at me right there. You know, he was building to it. I just had it off in the past.
I'm going to say that I agree. I mean, my general thought on that is that when you pick up a new system, you should just try to run it as close as possible to how it's written to start with, because otherwise, I can't tell you the number of people who are just like, I've just started playing let's say OSC. What are the best house rules to add? Like I'm just coming from a different system. I've never played OSC, never played BX. I'm going to start house ruling it.
Right.
Like to me, that just seems like not the right way to approach something. I play it, see how it plays out, and then if it's not working for you, then make changes. That's kind of the way that I look at things. And I think if I was running Shadowdark, I probably would run some dungeon crawls because it seems like that's what it's really good for.
Yeah.
Not to say you can't do other things. Like as mentioned, DCC has no real rules for anything.
Right.
Beyond the magic. I mean, it does, but it doesn't have like deep procedural rules like the way BX does. So it's not like you need those to run a game, you know.
Right.
But I just think DCC is so wild and different that if I was running something,
it's gonzo. It's not my style.
Kind of
but you know, the adventures are all solid. For every DCC adventure I really read, they're pretty decent. Everyone I've played in too. Sean Sanford would run some things with Flail Snails, guys. So I'm dropping a first edition 6th level AD&D Hobgoblin in there and jumping into a DCC game, and it ran just fine under the rules. He just had to transform some shit over easily, and it was fine. I think the adventures are portable to most systems, most old school systems at least. You know, if you don't like the big gonzo shit, just eliminate it or something. You know, the flamboyant.
Yeah,
stuff.
I also think it's how you play it, because what DCC does is what so many games say that you should do. This is again one of those things about reading rules. Like there's no rule in DCC about how to get spells, because the implication is that you're supposed to find them in the game. So you don't have this problem where it's like, well, my magic user at this level, now he's got a fireball. If you don't want to have fireball in your game, you just don't ever have the wizard find it. Like DCC, you don't just learn spells, you have to find them. And the modules do a great job of actually doing that. Like when you play their modules, they have spells in them, they have magic items. So you could keep DCC pretty grounded. I mean, I ran it as a duet game, so just with one player, and they played 2 characters for over 6 months. It wasn't too crazy. I mean, occasionally it was, and it was the magic that was the crazy part. But like it was really cinematic and amazing when it happened. But most of the time, it's not like you're throwing spells left and right. But when you do, and it starts raining frogs, then that's how you know you're playing DCC, right? It's like it's a different kind of game. Yeah.
It reminds me of the Vancian. I just say it reminds me of the Vancian system in its most pure form in a weird way. Based on the books, it just seems like that.
Right.
It really does.
Vance said he used the ash carousing table, and yes, an unfortunate rash happened to
that's what happens.
I use carousing, and it sounds very similar to what's in Shadowdark. I use that carousing table. For Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers, and we had some really cool, like plots, if you will, for the sandbox come out of it. It's like somebody wakes up, like one of the people they carouse, and I said, you wake up in a room next to a dead snake man. and there's gold on the ground. You don't remember what happens.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're in this room with this dead snake man. Like, what were you doing in the room? You know, how did you kill them? Was there a battle? You know, and you don't know. Now all of a sudden there's this dead snake man. What's going on? Where are you? Right. And you gotta and that actually built up to a plot where and in my game they hadn't discovered there were snake men in the city yet. So it literally opened up that plot of the game.
And,
so
and what SPD did it give the guy? I mean, the snake man obviously gave him something. I mean, so what's he waking up with, right?
That's yet to be determined. Huh?
That's another rule.
So what games do you run right now, Daniel? Like what kind of you run anything? Are you in something or both?
So I'm currently running OD&D, my 2+ year campaign. I'm about to start running Coriolis again, which is super fun. That's a free league game, kind of like Arabian Nights in space. That's pretty cool. And when I run one-shots, I use a game a lot of times called The Hateful Place, which is just very, very minimal system. And the idea of it is basically that there's been an apocalypse, and you as a GM figure that out. It's kind of an alternate history game, so you could be like, all right, I have an idea. It's 1597 and such happened and blah blah. And then you make this like apocalypse game, and it's like very, very open ended. I love that for one shots because it's so easy to play and to run. So those are probably the games I'm running the most right now. But no Shadowdark.
I've never heard of
or
the Hateful Place.
Huh,
or DCC,
yeah. Hateful Place is fantastic. It's one of my favorite games. And there is a debate amongst some people that you can't run it for ongoing. So it goes back to the Shadowdark thing because there's not a lot to it and it's very deadly. But at the same time, we've actually run it. One of my friends ran effectively he used the concept for the Morrow Project, I guess, where you're put into stasis with just because a nuclear war is going to happen, and then you're supposed to be released in 100 years, but actually you don't get released for 2,500 years or whatever, right? So you come out and you're like modern people in the time of the thing. So we were people from the 2000s, and here we are in this new world, and we're supposed to have all the stuff we're supposed to do, but everything's destroyed. So, and he ran the whole thing, and we actually ended the campaign because it reached a cool spot, not because everybody died. So the thing with the Hateful Place is for instance, you could do spells where it's okay, the fire spell, for instance, it's it covers a 1 mile radius. It does 20 d20 damage. So it's wow. That's an apocalyptic spell. You're not going to be casting that spell all the time. And inevitably, when you play with a new person, they kill the whole party. That's just what happens.
There's gonna be that one. Yeah,
there's always that guy.
so it happens every time. But once you've played with a few people, it's all. So this may turn people off or turn them on. But there's only 3 stats. Everything is target 15. So you want to attack somebody, it's 15. You get to dodge or avoid, target 15. All weapons do the same damage. 4d10 damage. And you start off with 20 hit points plus your strength or body, I think it's called, which the most that could be is 18. So the most you can start with is 38 hit points. But any weapon does up to 40. You. So it's very deadly. And what ends up happening is at first you might think, well, that's whatever, different weapons should do different damage, but you start getting really creative with what you use to kill people with, because you don't have to worry about, I need a machine gun or I need this way, but you can, dead is dead is what the game says. So
the soup spoon, I take him out with a soup spoon.
In one of the games that we're playing in, I actually I took a dish, we're at a restaurant, I took a china dish, and I broke the dish in half and I threw it and I rolled crazy high damage and I killed the guy. Nice. So I was I threw it, and as he was looking up, it stuck in his throat and hit his jugular and he fell over and died. It's how awesome is that, right? Of course, you can die too that way. So, you got to be. So it's super simple to play. And I mean, I'm really generalizing it, but lots of random tables, lots of. And again, it's supposed to be a dark, grim, dark kind of thing, but you don't necessarily have to play it that way. But it's really fun. I mean, it's worth picking up. Dave Mitchell is the creator.
Yeah, I was just looking. Unfortunately, I clicked it down. Unfortunately,
are you going to run it? Daniel at ShireCon or something like that. Do you run games there, or do you just play, or you hang out?
I ran OD&D last year. I'm always nervous to run weird games at cons because I'm afraid nobody will sign up for them. Because I'm the guy that would sign up for that at a con. What the hell is this game? Because I pick my games at cons by people's descriptions, not by the system. Okay. I look at the name and I look at the description. I don't care what the system is.
Dave Mitchell.
Yeah, Yeah, he's really nice guy, and the system is very cool. You can pick up just the core book to get going. I don't. There's 3 books. The other books are they get a little bit dark. So if you're into that dark stuff, I mostly play off the core book. But yeah, I definitely recommend The Hateful Place.
Tim, you could drop the link in here if you wanted to in the comments. That way people could pick it up. It does sound interesting. You ever do Lovecraft, Daniel? You ever talk about Lovecraft the other day? Have you ever
Lovecraft?
Any Cthulhu stuff?
I play in a Cthulhu campaign. I'm a player. It's an audio play of it. So if you want to see me play I start when I'm in my 20s, but now I'm in my 30s. German female dancer. You can.
Damn, man!
My character is amazing. She's fantastic, and we played through an entire campaign of the something Berlin or something. So we started there, and now we're playing in another one where we're doing Pulp Cthulhu. So yeah, I played
Pulp. Yeah.
I'm not good at running Call of Cthulhu, but Andy, who runs that, it's on Grizzly Peaks Radio. If anybody's interested, is a fantastic Call of Cthulhu keeper.
Grizzly
so
Peaks
good.
Radio.
I'm not a good
podcast. I take it right.
It's a podcast. Yeah. It's called Grizzly Peaks Radio. All right. Check it out. The Berlin campaign is. I mean, I'm in other ones too, but that's the one that I'm in currently, and we're having a great time with it. I'm always like, he'll be like, "All right, you need to do whatever," and I'll be like, "I'm a dancer. Can I use that?" My highest skill. I have like 85 in dance and like nothing else. Like I'm just like that's all I can do is dance. Well, and I have like a really good appearance, so I'm like I have a good charm. But like otherwise, I'm just like so. I love playing characters like that where it's in that kind of situation. Like I'm not, going to get into a fist fight, or if I do, I'm going to get beat up. I'm like I'm not a good fighter. I'm not a spy or a detective. I'm a dancer who got caught up in a bad situation, with all these monsters. So yeah, but I'm not a huge Lovecraft fan. So when I play the game, I often don't know what the things are. Like he'll be describing it, and I have no idea. People are like, "Oh, that's Amigo" or something, and
right.
And I only know what Amigo is because of Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerer Type 4. Like I've read some Lovecraft, but I'm not super into it.
Yeah. It was a phase I went through for a bit. I mean, any black book that has a leatherish skin saying the Necronomicon, I'm buying at the bookstore. Right. Just had to pick that up, right? So, yeah. So I picked that up and I got into it. But yeah, it was a strange vibe that's hard to translate. I did Lovecraftian themes in my last campaign. I ran the 5e thing, and I brought in a lot of stuff from Call of Cthulhu. I even at one point had the, Forgotten Realms 5e players bounce to Berlin because that fucking Berlin book was fantastic, dude. It was a really, really great book. And so they were back, but it was easier to translate into D&D terms than it would be, I think, for me at least, to run it. I don't think I could be a good Call of Cthulhu DM or whatever, keeper, I guess you call it.
I think the problem is. So I tried to put a link, but it didn't let me. So it's probably some kind of blocker. So
if you put it in the comments on StreamYard, it should work, Daniel.
I said it wouldn't go.
Oh, really?
He's got to put it. I think maybe in our private chat or something like that.
Oh, okay. Put it in private. Yeah.
If you go down to the bottom there, if you see on the right hand side, Daniel, see comments, banners, brand, and then private chat.
Far right. You may have to scroll out.
Far right.
Unmagnify.
Yeah, I don't know how you're.
As Tim explains this, I'm going to take my first opportunity for a bathroom break. I'll be right back.
I do not see it.
What's that?
I do not see it.
Oh, okay.
I see post a comment.
Yeah, if you go to the right of that, Daniel, there's I think maybe
I can't go over further.
I was gonna say you might not be able to get over further for that.
Yeah, I put the name of it anyways. If you put that in the search, it'll come right up.
Yeah, I think is that a podcast, Daniel?
It's a podcast. Yeah, if you put that in search, it'll come up on like Apple. That's the link I tried to put.
Oh, okay, cool.
Now I'm kind of frozen. Okay, hold on. StreamYard does not like me, and I do not know why.
I know you do. You do seem to have trouble with that. Yeah, and your YouTube channel's been pretty successful from what I've seen, Daniel. I've been watching it a lot lately. I haven't been a YouTube person until probably, I think, late last year. I started watching YouTube videos about gaming and stuff, and I think I've pretty much eaten all your videos up for the most part. I mean, because they're just good. You've got a very good teaching I don't know, presence. Like you can go through these things. Because if I tried to do what you do, I would make no sense because I would be confusing and confuse things up. And you're really good at laying out things in a manner that someone can pick it up easy. Is that something you've done in the past or anything, Daniel, or where does that come from?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I do as my real job, as I say. I now these days teach photography. I've been a photographer my whole life, so I'm on YouTube for photography too. So I've gotten pretty good at like being on camera, which is such a funny thing to say because it's such a weird. Yeah. I was talking about that in my other podcast that like because I have one for photography where it's like I would have never. Oh, okay. It was such a random thing where like somebody's like you should be on camera, and I was like no, not me. But it takes a little bit. Like what I figured out is that I can't use a script. Like I have my own. Like I have my way I do things. I have my bullet points, and what I normally do is before I start to do a video, I'll look at my bullet points and then I'll start typing it almost like it's a blog post. Like I'll just start typing, so blah, 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 blah. And I'm a terrible typist, so you'd never be able to read what I'm typing. And I'm typing it. And then once I feel like I'm in the flow of it, then I turn the camera on and then I'm like loose. And
okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's it. And editing's a big part of it.
Right.
Like if there's anything that I learned from doing videos for a long time is to stop. Like, because what happens is you start to talk, as you probably noticed in the live stream, and then you run out of something to say, but you're not done talking, so you just keep going.
Yes.
But like, so if you learn to stop, that's like the thing that I've learned from recording videos. This is by having people film me, like because of course these things you do yourself, so you have to become self-aware. But when I first started doing it, I had filmmakers, like actual good video people filming me, and they'd be like, "Okay, you can stop now."
Third party help to like shut up, Daniel. Okay, you're good.
So you start to learn, like when you start to learn to just stop, because the most nervous thing is when you're recording yourself is to have that silence. But when that's why I say editing. Like sometimes I'll be recording a video and I'll just lose track of where I was, and I'll just sit there for a minute and go. But that's because I know I can cut it out, right? If I was live, I wouldn't be able to do that. It's much more stress. So I think that helps a lot to make it. But yeah, that's what I kind of do now. I have a couple of bullet points. I get myself going by kind of writing something, and then I just start talking. I try. Somebody actually, there was this weird thing because I had used I was messing around with Midjourney. This is going to get me a lot of hate.
Here we go. I knew you have a photography background. I was gonna verge into this, but I didn't want to set you up. So I'm glad you jumped in on your own.
So I'm like, this is what so I'll start off by saying this. Mm-hmm. I've been a photographer my whole, I left. I went to school for it, quit everything. My job I had, I moved to Miami Beach in the 90s, and I worked my whole life as a photographer. So I've been in the creative industry, and I don't mean like I was a photographer on the weekends or whatever. I mean, I was a photographer. Like that's what I do. So one thing I've learned is that when something is new technology, it's always worth looking at because there's been way too many things that have come out, and I'm just like, that's terrible, or this is a bad thing, or it's never going to do this. So I always find that I want to keep an open mind. Now, there's a lot of ramifications in legal things and stealing and stuff like that I'm not going to get into because that is bad right off the bat. But if you look at my thumbnails on my YouTube, I go back and I find like old covers of like Heavy Metal magazine or artists like Frazetta that aren't around anymore and stuff like that. And I will use them as my thumbnail. And I'm stealing that picture effectively, right? Because Frazetta did not give me the rights to use it. Yeah. But a YouTube thumbnail is a throwaway piece of art. So my thought was I'll make some thumbnails with Midjourney. It's a way for me to play with it and try the technology. So I made a thumbnail and I credited it as such. I said it's AI, whatever. It's like, and the people that come out of the woodwork. Oh yeah, and this person's like, well, how do I know that you don't just have AI writing all your videos and your scripts? And I'm thinking to myself, if you think I'm reading from a script, like I don't know who could write this, but it was just really funny. I was like. But yeah, people are very passionate about it, and I did it a few times, and I got a feel for it. And I think that the technology is kind of trash. To be honest with you, is my opinion on it. I don't think it's very good. I think that it creates both the writing stuff, like your chat stuff, and your imaging. It just creates bad copies of good things, is what I'll say. So, but it's still worthwhile for us to be looking at the technology because it's going to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be
not going
involved in
away.
more things.
Yeah.
No, it's
right.
inevitable.
So,
AI is inevitable.
Yeah. So I think that like they need to figure out how to make it so you're not obviously stealing people's art. That's going to be important. But I also think that it's inevitable. So like we're gonna see it used in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like for instance, Adobe pull only from their own stock library. Now you could say like I don't know, I'm not an Adobe stock provider, so I don't know if they paid everybody for that. So you could say that's a little bit more legit because at least they're just pulling it from there. They're not spidering the internet for images. So there's different ways to do it, and there's going to be ethics that they're going to figure out. But that's going to be well beyond my scope as an artist. I feel like that it's worthwhile to play with. I think you have to be careful, just like anything else, right? Like if I use this old Frazetta picture as a thumbnail, that's what people do. That's the internet, right?
We all yanked a map from Google to run a game or something because we didn't want to draw it, right? So this is what we do. Yeah.
If I grab the Frazetta picture and I put it in my adventure that I'm selling, and I do a Kickstarter, now it's a whole different story. So I think we have to be wary of where things are going to be used and what they're for. But I think just outright saying that something is not worth looking at, if you're an artist, is maybe not the right tack to take. Speaking from somebody who's done it, and just looking back and being like, wow, I kind of wish I had looked at that because now that's a thing and I need to know about it,
And you got to come back, dude. I made $45 since you've been here, so you're getting drinks at Shire Con on me, dude. Whatever you want, man. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Flint.
On Facebook, I read a post that was a little disturbing, I would say. So it was Dyson Logos, and he was talking about that he searched his own maps or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do this. I don't know how this works or anything because I'm completely oblivious to it. But he said that now 85% of his back catalog of maps is considered AI. They're not even considered to him anymore.
Wow.
And he was pissed. Of course, he should be.
Imagine. Yeah. I mean,
because when you Google like fantasy maps or Dungeons and Dragons maps or black and white maps, Dyson's is going to be
Well, and they're so generous too. Like there's so many Dyson Logos maps that you can just use like for free as long as you create them. I mean, what a generous person. So I don't know why anybody would steal a map from me.
Well, I think it's just because they've used it so much in the
as a reference.
Uses reference. Now it's become their property.
Well, they probably use Matt Jackson as basically a justification because he's been stealing Dyson's maps for decades, really. So I mean, it's probably if fucking Matt could do it, and what the fuck?
Well, what's funny about that is I wonder if that's what it is, or if it's that he put it through a filter to say filter out the AI or something. Because you can actually for writing. So I can tell you this for writing, you can actually because I do some editing. So I'll put things through a filter to make sure it wasn't written by an AI, right? So, but I find that it's not that accurate because I've actually written stuff from scratch, and I'll put it in these things, and it'll say like 60% AI. It's like 60%
really?
I just wrote this thing.
Well, then maybe that's what he did then.
So I wonder if what's happening is that the AI detection software is so terrible right now that you can't trust it. But the problem is that some things like Google are trusting softwares like that. So now it's like you wrote something original, but the software tells you that it's AI. And now all of a sudden it's like, it's a mess. So
it's everywhere too. I mean, it's everywhere because I tried to set up the stream thing and I had a picture of you, Daniel. I ran your video at a quarter speed to catch you when you weren't like making a weird face. So I wanted you for the thumbnail. You know what I mean? So I'm like, a lot of weird faces. I gotta say, I don't know what's going on there, but a lot of weird faces. But I got you. I got a good one, and I put it in the thumbnail. And then I saw that StreamYard said, "Do you want AI to make your thumbnail?" I'm like, Jesus Christ! In StreamYard. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was the first time I've ever seen that. So
well, you know what's funny about that? So I have to tell you that I looked at that the picture, and I told my girlfriend. I said, "Yeah, look at the nice picture that they found." I'm like, I don't know how he did that because I had my friend KR. We swapped videos a little while back, and I was looking for a picture from him, scanning his videos, and the picture I found was just terrible. Yeah, and he did the same thing. We both had terrible pictures of each other, and I'm like, maybe we just are just mean to each other. And so just really nice. So, yeah. Oh, somebody asked what camera I use. Currently, Nikon Z6 II.
Is that digital or use old school film?
Oh yeah, it's a digital camera.
Okay, all right. See, there's technology you have to adapt, right? You're in a new age, right? And there was a few people. There's this guy, an artist, Clayton Cubitt, a photographer, and he he said as soon as digital came out, he got rid of every bit of his old stuff and went straight up 100% digital. He saw the future and it's coming, so he said, "I'm going to jump on now." You know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was actually a pretty early adopter. When the Canon, I think it was D30, whatever it was like a $5,000. Which, by the way, a $5,000 digital camera back in the day was cheap.
Yeah. Wow. Damn.
It was like the cheapest digital camera. Actually, I kind of come out with one similar, but I was shooting Canon, and I did it. I was a young guy, and didn't have the money, but I was like, I'm going to buy this camera because this is the future. And I did. I went in digital. But then what's funny, and I was living in Miami at the time, and when I moved to New York City, my style shifted because you live in a different place. It changes the way you look. And I actually weirdly went back to shooting analog, as they call it today, film.
Interesting.
And I shot for a long time. I shot film, and then I never got rid of digital, but film was like the major thing I shot. But now I primarily shoot digital. I find that it's just not worth it for me for the stuff I do to shoot film. It's like the extra expense, the time, the added work to do it. When I was living in New York City and I had labs right down the street from me, and I was getting paid per roll, because they'd pay for the expenses. But now people won't do that. It's like, if you want to shoot film, go ahead, but like, you're taking it out of your pocket. So you got to really want it if you want to do that.
You ever incorporate that into some of your stuff? I mean, there's a lot of times I'll walk in the woods or in the park or whatever, and I'll see a scene. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the best orc ambush. You know what I mean? Things like that. I could just totally see this. And sometimes I'll take the picture on my cell phone, but it never does it justice. I'm a shit photographer, Have you ever been out there and taken this? I'm going to show this in this game coming up on Tuesday because I know it totally fits what I want to have the players to see. Anything like that? No. You ever crossover at all?
No,
no crossover.
No.
Also,
not a bit.
Not a bit. And also, what's funny about that is I cannot take a picture to save my life with my cell phone. It is the funniest thing.
Really?
I've been a photographer for longer than I'd like to say, almost 30 years. Wow. And I can't, I'm terrible. I see these people, like these influencers that have these amazing photos, and it's like shot with an iPhone. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So I don't know what they're doing, but I can't. No, I don't shoot that kind of stuff. Like I'm more of a portrait. Well, for a long time I was a fashion photographer, and then I portrait photography. So I don't usually walk around and shoot like landscapes. So So that wouldn't be the case. But I definitely, but I do see things that inspire me. But normally I would just write it down. Like I don't usually take a picture of it because I would never use the picture in the game because I don't know why. Do you guys do that? Do you bust out pictures in games and show people? I've played with people that do that, but I don't.
With Roll20, I do. With Roll20, I found it's kind of cool. It looks like this. You know what I mean? And I show a picture I found on Google or something like that, or she looks like this, or whatever the case may be. That I'll do, definitely. I don't do it in person that often because you got to print it. You got to, you know what I mean? It's ink and bullshit, right? If it's going to be color, it's even more money. So the hell with that, But on Roll20, it's cheap.
Right, it's free. Right. No, I used to play with the guy a lot. My friend Tony, the guy that turned me on to Tim. And he would do that. He'd be running games. He'd be like, "This is the innkeep," and a picture would pop up, and you'd find the stuff online.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. I can't, because I'll go down this weird path of what does this innkeep look like? And I'll be looking, and then 6 hours later, I'm downloading pictures of sexy elves onto my computer. I don't even know what's so it's I'm just not. Yeah, it's just
goes down the rabbit hole.
Yep.
I used to have this giant folder that was just called images for games and stuff, and it's so huge that I would use 5% of them I've used, and mostly as characters for myself. Because I'll be like, oh, I need a character portrait because I do that if I'm playing in a game. Like in Roll20, I'll look for a fun picture. That's actually, this is a good question for you guys because I'll answer first because I always like to talk. But when you're building characters, where do you start? So for me, I often start with a picture. I'll think, what does this person look like? And I'll find a picture and then I will build my character based on that picture. Do you guys do that or what do you do?
No. I mean, first is all right, the group needs a wizard, so he's going to be a wizard. And how do I min-max the shit out of this wizard to get all the advantages? And then the name and the look comes way the
Joe
hell later.
Always plays a wizard by default.
Yeah, well, the group needs a wizard. I mean, that's how it goes.
I always
Joe, how I do it.
Yeah, you go
down the line.
He does the stats, and that determines his character.
Yeah, I just roll it. I'll play it as shitty as it comes because it's just absolutely playing shitty characters. Just
5 strength fighter. Here we go. Yeah, that's that kind of thing, right?
Well,
let's do it.
Yeah, no, I think the picture helps me kind of figure out who the character is. So I often will do it that way. I'll look for a picture. And then from there, and then what I'll do is if I need to, I'll roll multiple characters. It depends on the game system. A lot of times people let you swap stats. You usually get at least one stat that's decent, so you move that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, which is interesting because I was having a conversation across podcasts at one point with Rob from Down in a Heap, and he was talking about how it was too easy to be a paladin, but then he lets his players swap one stat. And I said, well, that's why. I mean, it sounds like a minor thing, but if you only need a 17 in charisma, then all you have to do is roll a 17 to be a paladin if you can swap the stats. But if you need it in charisma and you have to roll it that way, it's way more rare. And it's funny how a minor thing can really change like that, right? The structure of the world, right?
And how many dice are you rolling to get that 17?
Oh, that's I'm very generous with the stat rolls.
Only keep the sixes.
I'm very generous. I start with you get 61.
Yeah, yours
66.
is generous.
Yeah, here's my.
Still manage to roll shitty though.
You do. It's impressive. And so you get one set of dice, 66. Keep the top 3. You get 2 sets of dice, 5d6. Keep the top 3. You get 3 sets of dice, 46. Keep the top 3. Arrange where you want, and Tim still rolls shit. I don't know how, but he will still manage to pull off.
I picked the wrong 3.
Yeah. It's just like Jesus Christ.
That's really interesting. Usually, if I'm making a character for like an old school game and nobody tells me what to do, I usually make several characters.
Okay,
that's just how I do it.
I just feel like,
well, that way you have backups. Plus it's just fun. I'll just be like, all right, I'm going to sit down and roll up a couple characters here. Then I'll just pick the one I like. Which usually goes with the picture that I picked, right?
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally not, right? You get the sexy elf picture and then you roll, everybody has a 3 in charisma. And you're just like, well, she's good looking, but she's just not very nice.
Right.
You guys ever miss like I know Tim and Rob played together as kids and lived close together. Me and my brother played together as kids, and we have a few friends, but we're all distant. Roll20 is the destination now because it's easy, right? rather than travel everybody to get the same house. Dan, you said you got back with your old buddies and they didn't play anymore. Have you ever gotten now lately? Reached out to some old people? Do you still do the face-to-face thing rather in person, or do you just exclusively go online at this point? Nope.
Had to cough. All right. So, interestingly enough, my face-to-face group is in person, right? And it's a group. It's not a group of people I knew when I was younger, though, because I grew up in Massachusetts. I'm living in New York now. But we play face-to-face, and we met in like 2016 or so when I got back into playing.
Okay.
And that's it. Like that's not true. Not everybody from that group stayed together. Some people drifted away, some people whatever.
Yeah.
But 2 of the people that I started playing with back then, 2, occasionally 3, still played in my face-to-face group. So I play with the people from my second coming to D&D, if you will.
Yeah.
And I play in person. Yeah. During COVID, lockdown, we played online because that was our only option. But we play, once a week in face-to-face. I have a group, 6 people. And that was going to be my good thing to happen this week, because actually not all 6 people are usually there, right? It's like that's just the nature of it. And this week, all 6 people were there. It was very exciting.
Nice.
Wow.
It's funny too because a couple of people actually, when the other person's not there, they sit in that seat. So it's funny because when all 6 people are there, there's like a weird thing, like where do I sit?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So but no. So I do. I play in my face-to-face game once a week, and I play, and I met a great group of people online that I played with. Just before the lockdown and after the lockdown, and we still play online. That's what I'm going to play Coriolis with. It's fun, but I like playing in person better. It's just a different vibe.
Yeah,
you're a DM. I take it during the games in person, right?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, everybody in my group except maybe one has actually run the group at different periods. Like we take turns, but I mostly run. I mean, that's my designator.
So what's your table like? You use maps, you use pointers, you use any kind of electronic stuff, you use miniatures, you do theater of the mind. Like, how do you run it? Do you stand? Do you sit? What's your style?
All right. So
Let's hear it.
Here
we go. We're on.
All right, so
cracked it up. Here we go.
we sit at a big folding table in my photo studio, and I sit at one end. And let's see, I use one of those dungeon pizzas. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's like Ultimate Dungeon Terrain kind of thing.
It kind of rotates or something like that.
Yeah. Well, mine doesn't rotate, but it has like the zones. Completely worthless. I'd never buy it again. It's absolutely junk.
Isn't that PDM's thing?
Nobody does that. I don't know. Maybe you guys do. So before I answer your question, the whole pitch of this from Dungeon Craft,
Professor Dungeon Master,
it's got these zones, right?
Yeah,
and he's like, because everybody just ends up in the middle in melee. Not my group. No. They're 100 feet this way, 200 feet this way. They're all over the friggin' place. They're never in the middle of the thing, right? So I got a melee over here, a melee over there. These zones are useless to me. Mm-hmm. If I was going to buy this again or get something round like this, because I like the idea of it on Lazy Susan, which I do not have, but I would not get one with zones because I think the zones just throw everything off. So I have that. That's I put it on the table every time just so we have squares. Use
it's a mock-it, apparently. Yeah.
Well, I have miniatures, but I very rarely use them, only if we're doing something that's very tactical. I have a box of dominoes that I use to build walls if I want to build something tactical.
That's a good idea. I like that. I got
it at a dollar store. So I got those. I use dominoes. But I do have miniatures, some of them. Everybody has a miniature for their character, and I occasionally use miniatures. But it's pretty rare. I don't use a DM screen. Mm-hmm. I don't use pointers. I have like my stuff is sitting in front of me on the table. I trust my players not to.
Okay. You roll the open and all that then? You don't hide the balls? I roll
all in the open, yep. Or I often have the players just roll everything. Okay. You know? Like if there's a wandering monster, I have them roll it. I have like a little, I don't have it here. I've actually shown it before, but it's like a little leather notebook. That's where I keep my adventures in for the most part.
Yep.
And now I have a 3-ring binder because I ended up getting one. Not Staples, but I got him. So I don't. It's pretty simple. I stand up sometimes, but usually we sit, we talk, we drink beer, we hang out. It's very casual. My group is very much we're going to make sure we have a plan before we do anything. So there's a lot of talking, a lot of role play, and then a lot of really quick action. And then we move on. And we play for about 2.5 hours every single week.
All right. That's good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. It's a good game.
Now every week too.
That's consistent. Yeah. If you could pull it off, Yeah. There's a big debate.
I love weekly. I would rather play. I made that decision before that even online, I do this. I would rather play for 2 hours every week than 4 hours every other week, which was what a lot of people do. Because I think that playing every week creates a truer commitment to people. Like if you do something every week, like you guys are talking about with the stream, it becomes a thing, right? It's on your schedule, right? So when somebody goes, oh, there's a movie that night, you can say, I can't go to the movie. I'm doing this thing. But when it's every other week, then you might commit to something and you forget it's the wrong week. And then you go. So for me, I find that shorter games can be more intense because we play for a short amount of time. Yeah. And I like to play every week. But yeah, I do use miniatures sometimes. Sometimes I'll build something like a cool prop or something if I think it's going to be useful. But usually it's mostly theater of the mind, I guess is how I do it.
Interesting. We got a big debate in the chat there. Melee or melee? So you've caused a fight there, Daniel, amongst everybody. Howard Hughes is throwing fists. Yeah, I say melee. You say melee. Flint's getting, so Tabletop Tap Room's quoting Irish lore or something. And, we got a whole thing going on about fisticuff. Yeah. One word. That's how we roll in the Shire here. I mean, this is stop, slap, and tickle. What do you got? So you're melee, Daniel. I'm melee.
I'm playing a whole different game down there. I don't know.
I do melee. Did I say melee?
Yeah, you say melee. Apparently, yeah. And then Tim, what are you? Are you melee or melee?
I call them fights.
Yeah. I also, by the way, I also say missile. I should point that out.
Missile.
As opposed to
ranged.
Missile.
Oh, missile. Okay, all right.
No, or missile. No, but no, as opposed to ranged. Because that was one of also the things that I found mocked about the thing. That why is it called missile? So I call it missile just to be that way, even if I missile.
Well, missile is different than thrown, and missile and ranged. Missile and thrown are both ranged, and missile is different than thrown. So that's why I look at it. I call it missile as well. I
do. I think when I talk about it, I think I'd call it melee rounds. Yeah. I think so. I don't think I do the melee. I don't know. I guess I never thought about it. I just say it, don't think.
I didn't know I was saying anything differently than anybody else, but I have an odd accent apparently.
Now I got to look in the Gary Gygax's DMG and find if he in his glossary had a pronunciation key. Because you remember he had the whole glossary because all those words he thrown out there when we're 14 years old. What the hell is that?
I love that.
What is a milieu?
Right. I got to say I love that. I actually like that the game made you look things up. Like the game, right? They didn't try to oversimplify things. It's one of the things I actually really liked about AD&D. He didn't talk down to you. It was like he just talked and you got to figure it out. Like, if you don't know what it means, you got to look that up.
Go to the library, bitch. That's how it was. It's just you're stupid. You want to roll with me? Know what I'm talking about. Melee. I hear it.
To a whole different vocabulary.
It was. It was a whole learning experience. You felt smarter having read it. You knew something other people didn't know. You pronounced French words about fighting. Melee combat with handheld weapons between more than two figures. This is distinguished from list combat, had to look that up, which is between two opponents, and missile QV, whatever QV means, combat, which is at a distance and involves thrown or propelled weapons. Thrown or propelled. See, propelled, thrown, missile, or propelled. Okay, good. And then milieu, a unique game setting embodying numerous possible variables in its creation, i.e. the world in which adventures take place. Thank you, Gary.
I love it. What's great is if you ever play Castle Amber too, there's like everything has like French pronunciations.
Yes.
And what I like about it too is it basically says like if you want to try to pronounce it like this, there's a guide in the back. Otherwise, just whatever. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love that shit, man. He's like credit Gary Gygax for my SAT score. Indeed. He made me read.
Yeah, made me read. Yeah.
100%.
I think it made a lot of gamers kind of expand their reading and their, look into different things. It's absolutely for me.
On that note, everybody talks about Appendix N, right? Like I didn't really get into reading those authors until I was an adult and people started talking about it. Like, I guess I read some of them. Like I had read
Tolkien,
maybe there's a couple in there that I had read, but not a lot, and then I discovered many of them later on. But like I actually, what's funny is in the back of the Mobile Basic, there's a reading list, and that I read. So it's actually kind of funny because it was like, you got a 60-page book and it's like 2 pages in the back, right? It's like, read this. And like it not only did it have like fiction, but it also had like nonfiction to read.
Right.
It's a great reference. It's
and I think it had movies and TV shows and stuff like that too. I think a few of those listed on the back from what I remember. So.
I'm looking at them now. Yeah, Paul Anderson, 3 Hearts, 3 Lions. And most of these I hadn't read because whatever Walden Books had or the library had is what I read. So that amounted to Tolkien from the library and Fritz Lieber because he already had a contract with Gary. So his books were in demand again, right? So his Fought for the Great Mauser books. None of these other ones I've ever read at the time, and only a couple after the fact.
Right.
Frederick Brown, Edgar Rice Burroughs, all that. Nope, never read that stuff. I read Tarzan, but that was it. Elsprog de Camp, Lest Darkness Fall, Fallible Fiend.
That's pretty funny.
Pratt, Harold Shea.
What's funny about those two is that if you read a lot of the Appendix N stuff, like the books that are actually listed, a lot of them are actually kind of fun, like kind of goofy and funny. Which again, it was something else I was talking about the other day with somebody. It's like, some people like, especially old school gamers, talking to the heights. It's like everything's so serious, but like some of those books are like goofs. It's like they're very funny books, and it's like there's a lot of comedy in like this kind of this style of play, this sword and sorcery. Like it doesn't have to be so grimdark, right? It can be.
He liked the puns too. Gary was a master of puns, and so he would try to drop them in his games. He had an odd kind of quirky sense of humor, from what I heard. So he enjoyed that sort of thing. I can see that, especially after a few beers. We all like to be a little goofy, right? We're playing D&D.
Well, I mean, look at the DMG. There's like cartoons in it, like silly cartoons in the DMG. It's like it's just funny because if you look at that DMG and then you look at like, let's say, a modern book DMG, it doesn't have that same kind of like humor in it. It's much more serious. So it's interesting how the games become, in a way, almost more serious. Whereas I think they were really having a lark, in the beginning in a lot of this. I think I wasn't bored.
Oh, a lot of weed back then too, dude. So and look where the land shark came from, right? I mean, the whole thing was the boulet, right? It was just flat out. It was what's his face getting stoned watching SNL, a land shark episode, and he's like, "Yeah, we now have a new monster in D&D. We're calling it a boulet." That's all it was. Tim Kask, I think he came up with it, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Watching SNL, boom, boule. because they had a miniature that kind of looked like it in their bag of plastic crap in their office. So boom, there it is.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's so fun too. Like one of the games I run at GaryCon, I try to use like basically like I buy like toys at the dollar store and stuff, kind of to bring that back. Like that's kind of part of the thing, right? Like there's all these beautiful miniatures and they're expensive, and but then it's fun sometimes just to put like like say like little plastic junk. It's like here, this is the guy.
Yep.
Like I have this little toy dragon. It's like this big, and it's supposed to be giant, right? So I explain. I'm like theater of the mind. I'm like a huge dragon opens up the. I stand up. I get all into it, and then I go in my bag, and I'm like, this is not to scale. And I put the little tiny dragon on top. It's like a fun little, it's like it creates like a fun little moment, and it's just something that I think that I like to have in my game. So like when you talk about my table, like a lot of it is very loose and fun and on the fly. I try to keep things super, super light when I can, but at that same time, there's like serious moments, because when you get into character, so you can really do both things.
Yeah.
God, Mad Magazine is making an appearance in the chat there too.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. I haven't seen that one. Oh my gosh, yeah. Mad Cracked. Yeah, Mad Cracked. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, correct. Didn't Mad Magazine put out a Tolkien ripoff of Lord of the Rings, Board of the Rings? Wasn't it them who did that?
I'm sure they did.
I have it on the shelf over there. Yeah, it's just that they didn't want to insult Professor Tolkien, but they put out a fucking hilarious version of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, Board of the Rings somewhere. I got it on the shelf, deep buried. Too many things buried on the damn shelf. Damn it all.
Yeah, you guys have all these shelves full of books. I have nothing.
Nothing. Nice clean setup there, huh?
Mine's all
I try to keep my mess kind of contained as much as possible, and there for the longest time, I have in my office. I have space to spread out, but Ivy's she's photographer herself and everything. She does hers for hobby stuff. She's a more of a what is it called? Macro photographer.
Oh, nice.
So she likes getting real close to the bugs and seeds and all the other,
macro is really fun.
Yeah, so she's big into that. So she's taken over half the office too, so she can process her photos and take care of stuff. So I just kind of condensed down. I said, I'll just make a little gaming cubby.
It's nice. Mine's spread out all over the place.
Yeah,
it's just not behind me.
Right.
Yeah. A window behind me, really.
Went on a workshop with people, and this guy took me aside. It was the husband of a woman I work with, and he had just gotten married a few years earlier. And he says, we're having a few drinks, and he says, Joe, he says, you're getting married or anything? You're dating? I said, no. He says, so if you ever do, make sure you either get a big garage or a big cellar, because that's all you're gonna get. So that's all. I've always in the back of my head, if I ever get married.
That's a check mark. It's one of those must-haves. You're going to need it for all you're getting.
I know. I can't see myself ever getting with a woman who put up with this bullshit. Can you?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of books here, man.
Well, you never know. You might find one who will add to it.
That would be dangerous. That's
it would be dangerous
setup.
But living safely is not your strength anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm surprised these books haven't collapsed and killed the people beneath me. They're nice people too. They made me breakfast. Nice, so I just feel bad, but yeah. Daniel, it's been 2 hours.
Speaking of that, so I just read. I just read a new book.
Still alive. All right.
Oh yes.
What do you got? What you got?
So when I was at Claricon, which is in a brand new con, the first one was last year, put on by a
where is that at?
Dungeon. It was in
Philly,
Canada.
Wow,
Canada.
Was it in Montreal? It was in one of the Canadian. Now I feel bad that I don't know this Canadian. Sorry, Canadian people. But it wasn't that. It was like 8 hours away. But there's a channel called The Dungeon Minister, and he put on a con, and I said, I'll come to the con. Why not? So. When I was there, I met this guy who then shortly after started a YouTube channel, Grumpy Old Slon, and he's reading Weird Tales magazines, and he read a story. Like he was talking about a story, and it was called Companions on the Road by Kenneth Lee, and it sounded so interesting.
Yeah.
So I went, and I had never read any Kenneth Lee, so I went and looked for it. And the book itself was super expensive, but for some reason, this one that has 2 stories was like $5, so I bought it, and they're really good. So I recommend Kenneth Lee if you haven't read them. And this is a good one. Companions on the Road, and the other one's called The Winter Players.
Okay.
But my problem with this is the problem with really good fiction, I think, is that I always want to make everything an adventure.
Yeah.
And these have great ideas, but I just don't know how you make it an adventure, but also still leave it open-ended enough that players can do what they want. Right.
Yeah.
Like these stories work very specifically because of what happens in the story. Right. If the player has made a left when the character here made a right, it's not the same. Right.
It all falls apart.
So it's interesting. You want to take the good stuff, but you don't want to like create the story around the story. So it's like just trying to find the idea. Like, okay, the idea here is that there's a cursed item, but it does not going to end the way the book was. So you just have to think, what does the cursed item do, and how would it affect the players no matter what they do? And I think that's partially where I get is we're talking about books where I get like a lot of my ideas, except for just the players themselves, like bouncing things off of them,
right?
For my adventures, like I'll get all these modules, like we were talking about earlier, and all this other stuff. But oftentimes, what I actually run is basically this: like I'll read a book and be like, "Oh, yeah, that's what we're gonna do."
Yeah,
it's so funny, right? It's like,
oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
is that what you guys do? Do you run a lot of modules, or?
I make it up mostly. I take bits and pieces of shit I read and just make it my own. I break down anything I find and throw it in the mix, and now comes my own stew. If that makes any sense, you know what I mean? It's basically bits and pieces of things I've read, other modules, and I like that aspect. I like this part. Here's a weird jigsaw puzzle, and here you go. But it's generally sandboxy. You know, that's generally it. And plus my own thing. I have to have the world as mine. You know, the history of the world is mine, and what the players do is up to them within it, right? It's sort of like an historical fiction writer in a sense, right? And so that's my realm, that's my world. And, you know, you might be able to affect certain things as you level up on a greater scale as you get higher and higher level, but certain shit's going to happen. So for me, the world building is the key, and not the adventure building. The adventure comes from what the characters do, and then I got to like find shit to make what happens, you know, happen when they do it, you know?
Right. Yeah, ironically for me, Daniel, it's like, hey, it wasn't until like, I don't know, it was last campaign or the campaign before that, I started using my own adventures. I would write them, but I wouldn't use them in my game as much and everything, because I use more of a, I guess the player's actions would have had to fit the situations I would present in some ways for me to maybe introduce an adventure. And a lot of times the players, or even if I'm playing in someone's game, that's where I'll get the ideas for the adventures and like come up with stuff. But a lot of times, like with, it depends on what kind of campaign I'm running, because you know, I have different styles that I'll use for different people, or just because like Joe can attest for. He has a character has been through 3 different campaigns in my campaign world, and the first one was different from the second one, and the second one was different from the third one. You know, and
all fun in its own way. You know, each of their own way.
Because the first one was just basically a one-on-one. It was just his guy and me. We were just playing, and what was really cool about that one is it really helped me develop my own little campaign world, because I leave a lot of blank spaces for people to help me develop coming in and everything. I'll have some, you know, some broad lines or maybe some specifics here and there, but like the one guy came in and he wanted to worship this guy named Puce, the god of silence, and I'm like, I love that idea. He's going into my campaign. Boom, you know, so I let people build onto my mythology, to my world, and so I like to be as surprised as much as my players do about things that go on or what happens. So I try to keep that loose, but you know, once in a while I'll introduce my micro adventures, you know, work one in there, and the funny thing is a lot of players will not stay in the adventures very long. They'll dip their toe in it.
Because you almost get killed as soon as you dip your toe in. You know, it's like walking in a room, Balrog, okay, goodbye. You know, the equivalent translation, you know, that's pretty much it. You know, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know.
As long as Balrog level treasure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And if anybody knows my adventures, I mean, Daniel would know that, because I mean, from his, because a lot of mine are situational more than some are located. I mean, they all go all over the place, but so like if you don't have that situation to kind of lean into for the players that, I'm not going to force anybody into a situation or anything. Because God, because like even having Joe in your party, he's going to get into way more trouble than I could ever think of.
Exactly.
It's just the players are just they're idea machines. I mean, you don't really all you need is a blank piece of paper, a pen, and just start taking notes, and you've got a campaign.
No, it's true. It's funny how things just kind of evolve based on what they do. And what I'll do is, especially with a lot of your adventures, Tim, is I'll have a few, like I have like a little plastic bin that are just there. So like if they are in a certain area, there's like I need a quick dungeon or whatever, I'll be like, oh yeah, there's let me use the restroom for a second. It's so short to read. Like, and then sometimes I'll put them in there as rumors. That's a lot of times what I'll do with those because they're locations based usually or small things. That's why it's harder to use the ones where it's like something specific, like this person's missing, because they would never go for that, right?
Right.
Well, they might go for it, but if they don't, then what do I do? They can go back to it. But if I say, oh, you have a map and it leads to a barrow somewhere, right? Like that barrow is going to, be the adventure, right? And I can just sit aside and go, this is, the adventure, this is where it is. And then if they ever go there, it's there. Yeah. So that's always fun. But no, I agree. It's like whatever they do is just creates just such a, it's amazing what players can do. And I think that's one of the most powerful tools as a DM we have is just opening up to what's going on around us and just being like if you understand your world enough, then you can just roll with it, right? Yeah, you want to have an idea of how things work in the world so that if they want to do something, it's like, well, but if you try to like push them in a path, I think it becomes a little bit less interesting for me anyways, as a DM.
Yes.
Well, Tim's evil idea is to keep his wireless headset on when he goes to take a leak or something as an excuse to eavesdrop on his players while they debate the horrible, evil, nasty situation he just dropped us in. Because at the time, I don't think he has any idea what he threw at us, and he's going to listen to us and get ideas on how to kill us with our own ideas. So, that's pretty much.
I cannot lie, Daniel. I do that. I told them I do that though.
Yeah.
I was like, just so you know, guys, I am listening.
After a year, you told us you did that. After a year,
I have so I hear every word you say. So and then Joe started doing it.
I'll do it now. Yeah. Vance says, Vance says, you get killed by Orcus or whatever for 50 silver pieces. Exactly, Vance. And then, as I say, a cursed dagger. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, was Vance the one who dumped the?
Oh, that was Greg. He dropped a dagger in the well, and
that's right.
And next time it was a horde of hell came through or some shit, or some whatever the hell it was. It was it was bad.
His players made the mistake of mentioning undead spiders. So,
right, yeah.
Exactly.
There you go.
And I admit, as a player, though, I will do it just to see if the DM will bite too. I will throw some bait out there and see, how much the GM is going to take or listen. I did it last time. Remember, Greg yelled at me for doing it. You remember that?
What was it about? What were you saying?
Oh gosh, I can't even remember now. But I it was something that had to do with the hag or something like that. And I said, "Well, this." Okay. And Greg's like, "Why would you say that?" I was like, "Oh, got my reasons."
Oh, he's playing the cleric abuse. He was trying to shush you from saying anything bad.
He was trying to shush me. Yeah,
that was the special power of the cleric abuse was the librarian's shush. So that's what it came down to.
Oh, Flint says he's going to try to kill the vigilant lions. Uh-oh.
The vigilant lion. What the hell is that?
Yeah, they were I think that was one of my last. See, I'm really bad at remembering what I write because I just, it's almost, it's Joe can. This is one of my here, Daniel. You'll appreciate this. One of my favorite, or one of the party's favorite things to do when they GM is to use my own maps against me because I can't remember them.
Love that.
And they'll throw it up there and just start laughing because I'll be like, And the one night, I'm not kidding, Daniel, I'm looking for this map. I'm like looking for it. I'm like, I know I got it somewhere.
I was fucking him up with it too. It was great.
Yeah.
All I did was turned it upside down. He didn't recognize it.
No.
You know?
No. And then here it was, Daniel. It was right on the wall next to me the entire night.
It was.
I mean, it was
he framed.
I was just like, I was like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah, I have a horrible. What's that? The second Tim adventure I ran was Tapping Crow. Tapping Crow. I kind of 2 PCs transported to fight the giant skeleton. The other's stealing some figurines.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah, Advance was in that game. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. It was a fun time, and fun was had by all except for Tim. So, dude, how was GaryCon? You said you just got back from that, right?
Oh, GaryCon was great. It's probably my favorite convention, I think.
Really?
It
looks like it's hopping out there, man.
It's big enough that there's like a lot of variety, but it's also small enough that and I've been fortunate enough to be able to stay the last few years, get a room right in the main hotel.
Nice.
So you get in there like Wednesday and you just don't leave till Sunday or whatever.
Wow.
I heard it's pretty hard to get a room in there too.
It's very hard. They have, if you GM a lot, they sometimes you can there's it's like a lottery and you can get guaranteed a room, which I did last year. It was so nice because then the day of because the most stressful part about GaryCon is that it's like the day when the rooms go on sale, everybody's like, because for me, I'm running games. So there's games I want to get in, but if I don't get in any games that I really want to get in, I know I'm going to be in some games because I'm running them. Right. So the stressful part for me is not trying to get in great games. It's basically getting the room. So but man, once you're there and there's kind of like a central lounge / bar. And after the games, everybody just kind of hangs out and you see all the people. And I've been to Gen Con a few times and it's cool. You meet a lot of great people, but you see somebody at a game, you never see them again. There's 50,000 people there. It's at GaryCon, it's you play a game with somebody that evening, you're walking by them in the lounge, sharing a beer with them. Mm-hmm. You're and there's luminaries, as they say, you've got Larry Elmer's been there almost every year. I've been to Tim Cass because there are a lot of people, so you just see him hanging out and just you can just walk up to him and be like, hey, your art's great or whatever. And they're like, yeah, I've never heard that before. No, I'm just kidding. No, they're really nice. Everybody has been super, super nice. I mentioned before, Top Secret was my favorite game. I met Merrill, who's the creator of it, and he signed my book, and it was just great.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's very, very, very cool. And I was like, look, that game was Aaron when I was a kid. We loved Top Secret, and he was so appreciative of it and everything. So, but I recommend GaryCon if you can get to it. It's definitely my favorite. Shadowdark is awesome. Yeah, but Shadowdark's small, but it's getting bigger. So
it is. Yeah. I think until he gets a hotel set up, he's limited to. I think we had about 200 last time, right? I mean, close to. So he's in North Texas only 500, and that's so. But he just needs a place with a hotel so people can stay overnight. Then he gets a 2-day convention. Then he's golden. A full 2-day convention.
Right, because I think that's the thing that makes GaryCon great is that you've got that after the games time.
Yes.
Whereas Shadowdark, it was a little, well, for me, I just drove there for the day. So I had to leave. So I was but I think that great people go there. It's small. I love the little town it's in.
Yeah.
Actually, the desk that's behind me, which you probably can't see because it's dark. Mm-hmm. Actually, there's an antique store right next to where GaryCon was.
Yes.
Yeah. Not last year, but the year before. Yeah. I went over there because it wasn't there. It was in a different spot, but I went there to get something to eat at that little diner. Yeah, and I walked in and I saw it. And I drive a Mini Cooper, so I drive a little tiny car. And I saw it, and I was like, she was 50% off. And I was like, whoa. I love that desk. It's a 1920s, whatever. Oh, and I'm like, there's no way in hell that'll fit in my thing. I'm like, can I give you the money and you'll hold it? I'll come back in a week. And she was just like, I'll hold it for you. Don't worry about it. Just give me your name. And she did. She held it for me. I drove back up with my friend's truck. And I just drove back up to it and bought it. So I went back in there this year, but there was nothing I wanted. But I was like, yeah.
And they needed better coffee, didn't they? I think it was your. Oh, yeah. It's very disappointed in the coffee offering. So.
The coffee offerings are terrible, and everything closed super early. It was but I think that Tom was kind of saying he didn't think people actually believed him that there was going to be that many people there. So hopefully
I was shocked
this year it'll stay open because I did think things closed. because that's it, right? Like you finish gaming or you have like a dead spot, you want to do something, but there was like that one restaurant, right?
Yes,
like,
right.
And that can really hurt it. You know, I think weirdly, I think Gen Con has the same problem. Even though there's a lot of stuff, there's not like a good central hub, and also no good coffee. So
I had a friend when I was living in Colorado for a bit, and this is in the early 2000s, and she was from San Francisco. I'm from the New York area, like, you know, all of us East Coast and this and that. And she was telling me the way she describes the country. She says there is the East Coast from DC to Boston. There is the West Coast from California up to Portland. There is Chicago, and then there is everywhere else has bad coffee. That's how she described the entire country. Good and bad coffee.
Well, what's funny is I'm not even a snob. I don't even need to have good coffee. I just need to have coffee. And there was nothing. Like there was, I literally went to, like, when the con was like over, I was with my friend Todd, and we went to this place and it said like pastries and stuff. And I'm like, pastries? I gotta have coffee. Yeah. I go in there and I'm like, coffee? And he's like, we don't sell coffee. I mean, you sell pastries and pie.
Wait, how do you not sell that?
I'm like, what do you shrink?
It's so cheap.
Stared at me.
Make a pot for $1, for God's sakes. I mean, they sell, make $20 on it, you know? Oh,
something. Yeah. I know he's not it's not in the same place though, right? It got moved.
Yeah, I think he's going to have it at the same movie theater.
No, they're moving it now. I heard.
Oh,
it's not in the movie theater again. They're going to move to a different location. I think Eric was saying that, right, Sam? Wasn't he?
I thought, because they were.
Oh, I have not. I don't go on Facebook really so much. So
yeah, me either.
Which is the only place where it was. Yeah, because I like that theater. It was nice, but the place they did it before.
Yeah, the little church thing or whatever it was.
Yeah,
the hall.
The little church hall, like theater, children's theater. That has the nice coffee place right near it.
It did.
So that's where I ended up going for coffee.
Did you want to drove 20 minutes extra to wherever it was to go back for coffee?
Yes, that's where I had to go. There's no other coffee.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, that's nuts. I hope if he moves it in more interior down to Danbury, something. If he bumps it, I know it won't be as close to home, but if he gets a hotel and with a lot of enough space, and he could be the North Texas of the East Coast, right? I mean that could be a thing because it's all old school. Yeah, right? We're all the same crowd going to these things, right?
Much,
well, I mean, honestly, for me, Danbury would be it's not miles closer, but it would be faster because
I agree. Danbury is not a bad thing, and there's enough hotels there you can pull it off. I think you know it's the next biggest city if you want to keep it in Connecticut at least. I don't know what the tax consequences are moving to New York. You know, my brother took a hike and he went to Massachusetts and New York.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
You know, he's like, I've had 3 states in one hike or whatever it was. So.
Well, the first time I went to ShireCon, there was no hotel, as you say, and I actually stayed in Massachusetts. It was like 20 minutes away from the con. So
yeah. No, that's
he's right in that little section.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in the deep northwest of the state. So yeah, if he has the chance. I mean, have you gone to North Texas though, Daniel? Have you made it there yet? Or
they don't let me in Texas anymore.
What happened? I gotta hear this. I was about to wrap it up, but motherfucker, what?
You've been banned from Texas.
Damn. It's a long story.
Oh, it's like, were you there with Ozzy?
Pee on the Alamo too, huh?
I went there and I said something bad about the Alamo, and they got all mad at me. No, I no. It's just Texas is so far away that I have not been. It's such a pain. Like I usually drive to the cons, so it's like
gotcha.
Texas is 1,400 miles, you know, which is a bit far. So I have not been, even though I've met so many people that are like, North Texas is fantastic and you should come. So I will eventually make it to North Texas. I guess I'll have to fly, but I'm definitely a driver.
Yeah. Tim drove 8 hours to get here, so whatever the hell it was, right?
Yeah. Well, 8 hours to get to your house, and then
my house. Yeah, my house is an hour away.
I think it was an hour away from it. So
yeah. It's not a bad drive. It's an hour away.
That's why I kept on telling Joe, is like when they were talking about ShireCon, he's like, why don't you come up for ShireCon? Because back then it was only one day. I'm like, I am not driving 8 hours for a one day con.
Yeah.
You know, I said, well, as soon as they make it 2 days, I'll come up. And sure enough, it was the next year. You know, he did the 2-day con. So I was like, okay, I'll do it this time. Yeah, get up there. No, it was a fun con. Yeah, it was yeah, because I signed up for the Hyperborea one because I saw you were playing in it.
Yeah.
And
and
I didn't get it or whatever. I mean, I wanted to meet
Jeff
too. Yeah, because I had
Jeff's great.
Yeah,
he's so nice.
Yeah, except he killed me by seducing me with a 1,000-year-old vampire, and
Oh yeah, he likes to kill the character. Every time I play,
I think we all died. I don't think anybody lived. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely a killer DM based on my experience, which is limited playing in his games. But he's such a nice guy. Every time I see him, I'm like, I see him, and he's very. You can tell he's just genuinely like excited to be in the industry, and he's not like. Like, oh, whatever. I wrote a game, get away from me. He really wants to talk about it, and yeah, he's just very, very cool.
The first time I was playing in Jeff's game at the convention up in Massachusetts. I got TotalCon, right? Just before COVID, I went to that one, and I wanted to play in his game. I wanted to see how he ran Hyperborea because I really liked it, but it was the one system I don't play that I really like, and I was like, let me see how he runs it. Maybe I'll get the vibe and really enjoy it. So I walked into the room a little late with a cup of coffee because a little hungover, whatever, from the night before, and so I walk into the room and. That was the first time that any tiny bit of notoriety I had from being on Eric's show and having a blog that it actually showed me that people knew who I was outside of like comments in a blog section. I walk up and these bunch of guys are like, there he is, Joe. I'm like, what? Except my picture's not anywhere. I'm like, they knew me because I was the only guy who wasn't there, and they saw that so I'm like, oh shit, all right, sorry guys, I'm late. I'm all nervous. Oh, no, welcome. They're like, Jeff's guys are like my people. You know what I mean? All the people in this game, it's like you feel like these are like regular fucking people. I sit down in a chair, the guy next to me, because you couldn't bring drinks in there or something to bust your balls. So I had the coffee, and the guy next to me says, hey, you want some whiskey in there? I'm like, yes, I can pop the lid on you, but it was like, this is good. I feel like home. And you ran a good game, and he killed half of us. So it was a good time. Yeah.
I got to make my way to TotalCon as well. That's not too far from me. That's only 4 hours. So I drove to. Somebody said they drove to GaryCon 13 hours. I drove to GaryCon 17 hours.
Damn, dude.
Got to be. I would.
Damn.
It's worth it though, because what happened was the year before, up to that point, I had flown to GaryCon, but I don't live in New York City. I live north of New York City, so I drive to the city. That's over an hour to the airport. Then I have to sit at the airport for time. Right, you got to go early to check in. By the time you fly there, it's a 3.5 hour flight. Then you land in Chicago. You got to rent a car. Then it's like an hour drive. So it's like a 10-hour day. Yeah. And you have to, and now I'm renting a car for a week that sits in a hotel, and I'm wasting money. Yeah. So for a little bit of a lot, I thought at first I'm like, I'll do it in 2 days. I'll just take an extra day and I'll just drive up. But I did it in 1 day just because I was able to do it.
Right.
Not this last one, but the one before was the first time I did that. And I was like, I can do this. And if I get real tired, I know where I can stop. It's a long drive, but I get there. I come a couple days early. I just get in the hotel and I walk around Lake Geneva and hang out the next day, drink coffee because there's plenty of it there. And
it's all about the coffee.
I bring my pie. I have like a little tea kettle. This is why I'm not a snob. I don't mind having bad coffee. I just have to have coffee. So I have like a little electric tea kettle now that I bring with me to hotels, and I bring instant coffee. That's like my backup worst case scenario.
So you're not a snob. You're just a hardcore addict. Yeah,
you gotta stay warm.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
His emergency plan there. Yeah.
So I got a dilemma, guys. Tim knows about this. All right. Let me present the screen here because you kind of got to see this.
I do know
this is it's getting serious now because it's do or die time. All right. This goddamn Kickstarter is the first Kickstarter I have not backed from Troll Lord in years. And I like it. And I want to, but I don't because of the goddamn prices. But we're coming down. We're less than 48 hours away. And if you want all of Gary's books, you get the PDF set for that, that World Builder series they put out with Troll Lords back in the day, right? They got the license to reprint it. So they're really pushing this thing. They got almost $250,000 already. PDFs for $110, but, or print for $250 or both for $325. And it's like, do you want to?
So I got to say about that bothers me a little bit. I'm just going to say that about Kickstarter. I'm going to kick my Daniel's Kickstarter soapbox here.
All right, here we go. All right.
If you buy the print version of an expensive print version of a book, they should give you the PDF.
Fucking agree.
I hate when you spend $60, $70 for a nice hardback book and then they want another $10, $20, $25. I actually, and I'm not going to say the name, and it was my own fault because I didn't read it, but I was watching a YouTube channel they mostly talk about 5th edition, which I don't really play, but I really was getting a lot from the YouTube channel. They did a Kickstarter. This is probably like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was their first Kickstarter. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to back the Kickstarter just to kind of give this channel something. Yeah. And I back it, and I didn't really read the thing. I'm like, all right, I'll go print level. That's boom, boom, boom. I get the thing, and they fulfill it, and I'm waiting for my PDF. Nothing. I look. It's like, you don't get the PDF. You want a PDF along with the $50 book? $25.
Oh my God.
I'm like, are you smoking crack?
Holy shit.
I'm like, okay, so no. So I will never run that thing because if I was going to run it at all, I would have run it online, which means I would want the PDF. So I have the book somewhere on my shelf. I'll never run it. But, I figure I got something from their channel, so I know it was worth backing them. But I'm like, this is just a dumb way to do something. Like, it's the print level. Like, give me the PDF. I mean, come on. So they're basically charging you $100 for PDFs after you're buying $250 books. That would turn me off. Sorry, Troll Lord.
I agree. I agree.
What's weird about that is I did the first one they released when they first were able to do it. I bought the book on pre-order for $60 or whatever it was, and they gave me the PDF for free. Yeah. So maybe if you wait that the Kickstarter, Daniel, you'll get the PDF for free.
God. I don't know, Joe. That's I mean, I have money. It is, and I mean, I know they have Gary's name on it, but not a lot of it was written by.
I know.
Gary,
and I happened to find the PDF fairy dropped a couple of these on my hard drive at one point or another, and I'm looking through them, and I know they're going to upgrade them and change them and new art and this and that, and they're going to take away the because this was D20 days, there was prestige classes built into some of these books, I guess. They're going to take that bullshit out, and I don't know what they're going to make in its stead, but I know it'll be different. But at heart, it's the same material, and the material is good. But do I need a print copy, or do I need an updated print copy? Do I need an updated PDF copy? Right? That's the dilemma. At the same time, kind of nice, a little piece of history, and they're useful, and to be kind of nice on a shelf. But goddamn, part of me says,
that's it. I mean, are you willing to pay $350 for some bookends?
Bookends, yeah, it'll be decoration, right? God knows I got no space in here. You've seen the place. And this is a dilemma. I mean, this is a true dilemma. I don't know.
Mean, it is a tough one. I mean, I know you like the Troll Lord guys and everything.
I do,
and whatnot. But that one,
that's anything?
a big ask. And then, like Daniel said, I mean, when you're paying hundreds of dollars for the book, give me the fucking PDF.
Yeah. I mean, part of me just at a spite says back to $250 print only instead of paying an extra $75 for PDFs of the prints I already have. They might, the PDF fair might deposit them again, right? So I mean, shit like that just kind of annoys me,
I mean, everybody's got to do their own busin's version. Maybe there's some stuff in there that I obviously don't know about, but I just, I don't know. I Joe, I'm not getting into it. But I have the original stuff that I wanted from that group. So I have like the Canton crew and the what's the other one? Adventure World or I forgot.
The Insidia one, Insidia. I think that was the adventure building one. I think they called it. Did you back that?
The Living Fantasy one's
Living Fantasy. Yeah.
That's the one I like. So.
Yeah. Did you back that, Daniel, at all? Did you back any of that shit that they were? What are you backing on Kickstarter? What do you like? If anything?
Well, I bought that one on pre-order. It was the Kickstarter, the castle one. They said they got me on a week. They got me in a weak moment where I was sitting there on the computer and I hadn't bought anything for a while, and an email popped up, and I was like, "Ooh, Gygax." I ordered it, and I'll never run it. I mean, I'm sure Castles and Crusades is a fine system, but I just again. Like anything else, like I'm not seeing myself buying another system. So I did just back the new Coriolis though, because I will run that.
Yeah, you're in that one.
Yeah, because I have the old one and it's great, and the new one is going to be a little bit more like if you don't know anything about Coriolis, it's like basically it's a sci-fi, Arabian Nights of Space is how they say it. But basically, you're in this area, the third horizon. I can't remember what it's called, but basically, it's like this universe that you're in. But this new version of it is like. It's like in the future or in the past or something, and you're more like explorers, so it's a different kind of vibe. So I back that. Free League's great, and you get the PDFs.
You need to get Free League is a good one. Yeah, I do. Like that.
So, but honestly, I'm not even 100% sure that when I'll run that. So it's like I'm trying not to. I have so much stuff, and I want to support people, So I try to back things that are smaller creators if I come across them.
Yep.
Sure. Partially because they're cheaper, so I can do more of them with my budget, but also because like that's the person that needs it. The person that like has like I just did Tales of Argosa. Like that's again a Pickpocket Press is a pretty small. They're not doing $1 million Kickstarter. They're just trying to get their product out there. So I like to back that kind of stuff versus let's say Free League that's they funded in 8 minutes, right? So I didn't need to back Coriolis. It's just that I wanted to.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The small guys at the cons, I do that too. Like little table, the guy self-published thing, I'll buy it. I'll never use it, but for $5, he gets $5. He makes some money, he keeps him going. Shit like that. I'll do that. I've done that with Kickstarters too for some guys.
I think that
Gary have given the PDFs of his stuff. You know what? I think Gary would have given the PDFs of his stuff in this day and age. Now,
back in the old days, hell no.
Well, I think he would have if you bought the hardbacks because again, he would want you to play the game. I don't think TSR was cheap with what they did. I mean, at least not when they were there. I mean, all the stuff I got from TSR was high quality. It came again. Somebody mentioned earlier I didn't reference it, but like some of the old modules, they had like pullouts of art. They had extra monster supplements. I mean, TSR did a good job as providing value for what you got. I thought.
Yep.
Early TSR.
Yeah, early. Yeah, second edition, they got all kinds of restrictive. I mean, they locked down the internet. Whoever had things out there, the FTP sites and whatnot. They threatened lawsuits and crimes and this and that. So they got real nuts with it. Yeah, dude, 2.5 hours, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is awesome, man.
No, Dean, it was great having you on, man. I was glad.
Well, I charge by the minute. You'll get a bill.
All right, no problem. No problem.
You probably wouldn't come there.
Send it to Joe there. Yeah.
Well, I got $45 in the kitty to give you, so
it won't even cover you the PDFs for that.
Right, not even the PDFs. Yeah, no, it was really fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is a good time. I talked to Tim. I said, I think he's like vibe with us well. I think I got the impression it'd be like a chill conversation. It was nice.
I'm a pretty chill person. I'm noticing that what was it? O'Neill Flynn. They got they're playing Twilight 2000. So I got that box set as well. Oh. It's a beautiful box set. It's like in a metal tin, the one I got from the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Haven't played it.
Oh yeah.
I know. That's like you said, more money than time these days.
Yeah.
It seems like we do. Yeah. Which is odd to say. With but
thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you for the tips.
Yeah, man, you made out good. You got some good beer money for the cons.
I know. That's where it's gonna go. I mean, I don't cash it in once a year. I didn't even cash it in last year. I just rolled it over. So
I thought you cashed in for your beer money for ShireCon.
Once. I did the one like $120, and then and then I didn't do it since. Right, so I'm rolling over money. All my mega trillions of dollars are rolling. I think I got $300. So
roll it over, Joe.
Yeah. It's more fun. But the money is the bonus. I do appreciate that because what I'll do is I'll buy beers for these guys at ShireCon and coffee for Daniel. So good coffee.
Well, and again, that coffee place was fine, but it closed at like noon.
It's podunk shit. Yeah. It's like
Daniel's just like, I don't understand this.
I lived in New York City and Miami Beach, and he goes to like
it's the weirdest thing. I mean, you think, anybody who has never been to New York might think I'm kidding. Well, you can literally get coffee anywhere.
Everywhere.
There's coffee all the time. You go to a shoe store, there's something.
Yeah.
That's but all the delis have it. It's not always good, but you could always get coffee.
Dude, I lived in Colorado for a little bit, and I was in Denver, and early 2000s, and I remember going. It was like late at night, and I was used to Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, all night long, Starbucks all night long, and so I'm like, well, I'm in Denver, right? I just got to be somewhere to go for a fucking coffee cafe scene, whatever. 11 o'clock, one fucking Starbucks was open in the entire Denver metro area, and it was attached to a Barnes and Noble. They just rolled the gate down and had a separate entrance, so you couldn't get into the bookstore. And they were only open until like midnight or 1. So I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe this. They don't have Dunkin' out there. What kind of state doesn't have Dunkin' Donuts?
You're from Jersey. Yeah, well, we won't get into that because I was from Jersey, and I remember when I went there, and it's like, she didn't realize how many Dunkin' Donuts they had in Jersey until I was there. And I'm just like, you guys have a Dunkin' Donuts on every freaking street.
As it should be. as it should be.
I guess. I don't know. I'm just like, what the hell? But yeah. All right, we better.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. So Daniel, hang out afterwards if you want.
Yeah,
in the little green room area. And I got to take a leak. So everybody have a great evening, and thanks for listening.
For hanging out.
All right. Bye-bye.
Night.
All right. Good night, everyone.